Warrior Lore. Chapter 887. Walala. Lin Weiqi made a move, activating the raging flame martial vein. A terrifying pressure descended, and raging flames burned towards the hairy zombie. The blazing aura was terrifying, and the hairy zombie seemed to be afraid. But then it soared into the sky, wrapped in a black aura. Woo woo! Black runes surged, and the powerful hairy zombie roared at the sky. A terrifying aura swept out, like a black demonic sun rising into the sky, shattering the space. Bang! Not long after, the terrifying hairy zombie broke through the sea of flames and resisted Lin Weiqi's raging flame martial vein. As it appeared in front of Lin Weiqi, the powerful hairy zombie punched directly. Bang! The black demon rune turned into a demonic sun, destroying the sea of flames. The powerful hairy zombie forced Lin Weiqi's delicate body back, and a trace of red blood flowed out of her red lips. Coo-coo! Dongli Diao's cloud phoenix blood eagle appeared, screaming and roaring. It flapped its wings and destroyed many broken walls. Dongli Diao's enormous body flapped its wings, but it could not disperse the terrifying aura that surged from all directions. Trespassing into the Imperial Mausoleum, all must die. The hairy zombie rushed out, its body boiling with black mist, like a demon awakening. The black aura was like a tsunami, and it immediately collided with Dongli Diao. But the result was the same. After several collisions this year, Dongli Diao was knocked down. Its huge body crashed into a broken wall of the main hall, and the impact shook the mountains. It was heavily injured. What a powerful hairy zombie! Du Xiaofu's eyes were filled with shock. This hairy zombie was too powerful. Woo-woo! The powerful hairy zombie roared. It did not allow anyone to get close to the golden coffin and continued to stare at Du Xiaofu. All of you must die. The hairy zombie looked at Du Xiaofu and shouted. Its black aura fluctuated, and its eyes were frightening. It was like a beast with sharp fangs, and it rushed towards Du Xiaofu. Its speed was too fast. Boom! All of a sudden, a terrifying pressure descended from the sky. The runes shone brightly like raging flames. What is this? Suddenly feeling this aura, the furry zombie cried out in alarm. This aura made him feel a sense of danger from the bottom of his heart, and he was terrified. In front of Du Xiaofu, the mysterious runes of the talisman fluctuated and finally condensed into the nether enlightenment grass, suppressing all evil. This stalk of grass was the bane of all evil beings. Light surged, and the symbols on the dark, penetrating grass flickered. It was as if a glorious sun was burning, erupting with divine radiance to purify the black mist and baleful energy. Go! Just as the formidable hairy zombie was astonished, the dark, penetrating grass in Du Xiaofu's hand had already pounced on the formidable hairy zombie. Waves of pressure surged forth like waves, immediately engulfing the formidable hairy zombie. Woo-woo! The ferocious hairy zombie rose to resist, black fog and baleful aura billowing out. Although the nether seeker grass could suppress the hairy zombie, it was still able to struggle. The nether seeker grass could not completely suppress it in a short period of time. Du Xiaofu's eyes were extremely solemn. If his cultivation was a step higher and his understanding of the nether seeker grass was more thorough, he might be able to suppress this hairy zombie. Rumble! Du Xiaofu began to activate his thunder martial vein. Thunder and lightning spread, and destructive thunder and lightning fell from all directions. Thunder and lightning swept across the sky like a torrential rain. The vast pressure caused the formidable hairy zombie to show fear again. Thunder and lightning swept down, and silver snakes flickered. The aura was strong, and the murderous aura spread. It was not austere, but it showed the majesty of creation. It showed the righteousness of heaven and earth, and it was the purest of yang. It could be vast and mighty, and punish the common people. At this moment, whether it was the dark penetrating grass or the thunder martial vein, they were the bane of the hairy zombie. They were suppressing it. Woo-woo, however, this hairy zombie was extraordinarily strong. It was more than enough to contend with a martial royal realm expert in the outside world. At this moment, although the dark penetrating grass and the thunder martial vein were suppressing it, they were unable to completely suppress it. The hairy zombie kept roaring, and the sound was ear-piercing. It resounded through the mountain range, and the black fog surged. Du Xiaofu could feel that the hairy zombie was resisting with all its might, and it was difficult for him to suppress it. However, once the hairy zombie broke free, Du Xiaofu knew that he would not have the chance to suppress it again. "Father, let me help you." At this moment, little Xingxing flew out. His golden eyes were filled with golden light, and his small body was overflowing with green light. The starlight fluctuated, and a pair of thin purple wings spread out. Then, little Xingxing's small body started to expand in an instant. Roar! As little Xingxing's body expanded, a dragon's roar resounded through the space. Then, little Xingxing's body became dozens of feet long. At this moment, although little Xingxing's body was flowing with starlight and had the aura of the golden-winged roc, it was more of a terrifying supreme aura. Little Xingxing's body seemed to be the legendary real dragon, but it was not completely so. The pair of wings that had expanded to hundreds of feet were no longer as thin as a cicada's wings. Instead, they were like the feathers of a phoenix, and blazing red and purple flames spread out. Little Xingxing's wings flapped gently, and waves of blazing tornadoes rose in this mottled ancient land. A terrifying and strange pressure descended from little Xingxing's body. Dongli Jiao, Shi Tu, and Lin Weiqi were in a better state. They crawled up and rushed over while covered in blood. When they saw little Xingxing's body, they were shocked. Especially under the terrifying and strange pressure, Shi Tu and Lin Weiqi almost wanted to crawl. Under the strange pressure, Dongli Jiao seemed to be under the greatest pressure. A pressure that came from the depths of his soul and bloodline caused him, who had just reached the martial emperor realm, to crawl on the ground. This is the aura of a demonic beast sovereign. Little Xingxing is a demonic beast sovereign. Dongli Jiao was shocked, and his body could not help but tremble. Under such an aura, he was unable to resist the terrifying pressure. As his body was revealed, little Xingxing's huge body was like a huge dragon. 5 claws rose faintly under his body, and rune clouds appeared. The space between his eyebrows also strangely lit up, as if there was light shooting out, and it was about to form a third eye. Chi! In a short instant, another eye opened between little Xingxing's eyebrows. This time, it was vertical between his eyebrows. 3 eyes appeared at the same time, and a roar came out, "Ayo!" This roar was a real dragon's roar, and the sound turned into sound waves that spread out. Then, a terrifying light spread out from between little Xingxing's eyebrows, and directly covered the body of the powerful furry zombie that was suppressed by the thunderbolt and the dark, penetrating grass. At this moment, the powerful furry zombie finally revealed a terrified expression. Woo woo! Under the cover of the terrifying light of little Xingxing's third eye, it let out a painful cry. Is this little Xingxing's body? Du Xiaofu looked at little Xingxing's body and was stunned. He had always thought that this little ingrate did not have any reaction. He did not expect it to be so terrifying when it suddenly attacked. At this moment, he felt the aura from little Xingxing's body. That aura seemed to draw out the aura of the golden-winged roc from Du Xiaofu's body. Faintly, Du Xiaofu felt a sense of fear, and a prideful aura that wanted to fight surged out from his blood. Woo woo! The powerful furry zombie made its final struggle. A churning black evil aura swept out, and even the energy in all directions shook. A vast and terrifying aura spread from within its body, and an evil aura surged. At this moment, it was unleashing all of its strength. At the same time, little Xingxing's hundreds of feet large body had already arrived in front of the furry zombie in an instant. An enormous and complicated aura spread from its body. Qila, the enormous tail on little Xingxing's back, seemed to carry a reddish-purple flame. It instantly pulled down from the sky and heavily smashed downwards, tearing through space. Qila, little Xingxing's enormous tail, carried a frightening symbol energy wave as it shot out. It also contained an enormous pressure. The suppressed furry zombie did not have the time to dodge and was directly swept away. Bang! It was as though a meteorite had struck downwards, and a deafening sonic boom instantly erupted in the surrounding sky. A large area of broken walls appeared to be unable to withstand the wind and directly cracked into powder in the surroundings. Bang! One could see with the naked eye that this enormous tail of little Xingxings began to crack, and blood stains began to appear on the body of the furry zombie. Its body was also directly rushed down from the large hall. Is this little Xingxing's strength? Du Xiaofu watched from the side. While his heart was shocked, he was also extremely happy. Woo-woo! The furry zombie howled towards the sky. Its woo-woo sound appeared to be a miserable cry, and it also appeared to be calling for something. The furry zombie's voice penetrated through space, and a deafening sound reverberated in the sky where black fog was churning. As the furry zombie's woo-woo sound was emitted, the golden coffin immediately began to tremble. Black fog churned, and the surrounding symbols flashed. It seemed that something unexpected was about to happen. This is bad. Du Xiaofu was worried when he saw this scene. At this instant, his body rushed out with lightning speed and borrowed the momentum to launch a lightning fist that violently landed on the furry zombie's body. Bang! The frightening lightning strength directly sent the furry zombie flying. Its body once again fell heavily, shattering a large area of broken walls. Dark penetrating grass. Du Xiaofu once again urged the dark penetrating grass to suppress it. This furry zombie's physical body was truly terrifying. Chila, little Xingxing's enormous body pressed down from the sky. There were strange golden scales on her body that seemed to be spreading golden flames. A violent aura raged. Her enormous tail swept across the sky, and with a claw, she heavily tore the furry zombie's abdomen. Poochie, the originally tyrannical hairy zombie, at this time, under the joint efforts of the father and daughter, was torn apart and eaten. Ka-ka, the aftermath of the claw spread, and the ground immediately cracked. Gravel surged in all directions. A corpse core was grabbed by little Xingxing. A frightening energy fluctuation and a dark aura spread out like a demonic sun. Retrieve. Du Xiaofu was already prepared. He stepped into the air, and with lightning dancing around his body, he rushed into the sky. With a claw, he immediately grabbed the corpse core in his hand. Little Yu did not slack off. There was a problem with the computer, and there was no place to fix it during the new year. Little Yu learned how to fix the system yesterday, and on the first day of the new year, he stayed up all night until now to patch up the chapters. If there is anything that has affected the brothers, please forgive me. Little Yu will update today around evening. Chapter 888. I'll swallow you. Little Xingxing shouted. His huge body once again swooped down. A complex pressure suppressed the world and suppressed the hairy zombie that had lost its corpse core. Then, when little Xingxing opened his mouth, there was a faint golden flame that rose up. The burning aura was extremely terrifying. Then, little Xingxing opened his ferocious mouth and directly swallowed the hairy zombie into his stomach. Boom! It was also at this moment that a loud bang suddenly resounded throughout the damaged hall. Endless light had erupted from the golden coffin in the center of the palace. Dazzling runes flooded the space, making it hard for people to open their eyes and look directly at it. The faint golden corpse core was directly swallowed by the golden coffin. Then, the golden coffin emitted a dazzling light. When the light dissipated, Du Xiaofu, little Xingxing, Stone, Lin Weiqi, Dongli Jiao, and the others discovered that there was a young man who slowly stood up from the golden light and floated above the golden coffin. It was a man who looked to be in his 30s. His face was cold and handsome, and he had a pair of deep black eyes. His thick eyebrows were slightly raised in a rebellious manner. He wore a light purple robe, and the color was not much different from the purple soft armor on Du Xiaofu's body. However, the faint purple robe on the young man's body made him look extremely elegant and graceful. The man's hair was tied up high, and his long hair flowed down his back like flowing water. His head was slightly raised, and his handsome side profile was flawless. What a beautiful man! Although Lin Weiqi's eyes were dark and her heart was tense, she couldn't help but praise this man. This man was even more handsome than Dongli Diao, especially the complex aura on his body. It was like a black hole that made people captivated. It still doesn't work. Just a bit more. Just a bit more. Is it really impossible to succeed in here? After the man finished speaking, his gaze suddenly fell on little Xing Xing's huge dragon body. There was surprise in his deep black eyes as he said in surprise, "The aura of a true dragon. You're actually the descendant of a true dragon." After he finished speaking, the man's eyes wavered as if he was thinking about something. Then, he said, "Maybe your true dragon blood can help me break through. There should be a chance." As the man muttered to himself, he waved his hand and an endless black aura surrounded him. His black eyes became even darker as he looked at little Xing Xing and said, "Descendant of a true dragon, I'm going to take your blood today. Remember, I'm called Jiangchen." "H, what an arrogant zombie!" Little Xing Xing's young and tender voice cried out. Suddenly, its ferocious dragon head roared. It opened its mouth and a golden flame that was dozens of feet long suddenly spurted out from its mouth. The terrifying temperature seemed to want to burn the space. Facing the golden flames in little Xing Xing's mouth, Du Xiaofu's expression changed. The golden flames were even stronger than Lin Weiqi's raging flame martial vein. Even his own purple flame demonic phoenix flame seemed inferior. Jiangchen suddenly raised his head and waved his hand. A majestic black aura suddenly turned into a wave and strangely collided with little Xing Xing's golden flames. It was actually able to resist the golden flames. As expected of a true dragon bloodline, the man said. His deep eyes flickered. The black aura that covered the sky fluctuated like dark clouds. The terrifying aura once again engulfed little Xing Xing's golden flames. When the golden flames collided for the second time, they were immediately defeated and drowned in the black runes. Sizzle! The black aura turned into a huge wave and swept towards little Xing Xing roar. Little Xing Xing roared. The dragon's roar shook the sky. He spread his wings, and another terrifying flame rose. This was not a golden flame, but a scarlet flame. Its power was not inferior to the golden flames. Scarlet flames swept out, rolling and enveloping little Xing Xing's enormous body. It was like the most beautiful fireworks. But beneath the brilliance was a destructive aura that could incinerate all things. Whoosh! The terrifying black aura runes surged. Its aura was too tyrannical. It destroyed the scarlet flames around little Xing Xing and attempted to envelop him. The blazing flames were destroyed. Purple flames and starlight once again rose from little Xing Xing's enormous body, illuminating the sky. Jiangchen's eyes flashed with astonishment. Then, he smiled. His smile was enchanting. A palm imbued with black aura descended. Rumble. The black palm dissipated the purple flames and starlight. The broken walls of the palace exploded one after another. The black palm continued to descend, like a giant spatial hand descending from the sky. It distorted space and suddenly enveloped little Xing Xing's enormous body. "Let's work together and fight," Dongli Diao, Stone, and Lin Weiqi shouted. They used the last of their celestial qi to condense their strongest attacks and rushed towards the man. Bang! 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 However, as soon as Stone, Lin Weiqi, and Dongli Diao approached, they were violently thrown from the sky by the shockwaves of the attack. Stone, Lin Weiqi, and Dongli Diao all fell miserably. Fortunately, this was only the shockwaves of the attack. Otherwise, the three of them could only imagine what would have happened to them. Dark hole grass. Divine thunderstorm. Du Xiaofu's gaze was incomparably solemn. He activated the dark hole grass and divine thunderstorm, which were most effective against zombies. At almost the same time, he attacked the self-proclaimed Jiangchen zombie. "I didn't expect a human like you to be so special. If you submit to me, you'll definitely become even stronger," Jiangchen said to Jiangchen. He didn't pay too much attention to Du Xiaofu. With a twist of his hand seals, a terrifying black aura swept out. He gave up on little Xing Xing and sent his hand seals crashing down on Du Xiaofu. Under the suppression of the dark hole grass and lightning, Jiangchen's overwhelming aura completely destroyed Du Xiaofu's attack. It was like swatting a fly. Then, it slapped Du Xiaofu's body down, sending him crashing into the messy rocky ground. "Dad!" Little Star's young and tender voice roared loudly. Golden light burst out from her huge dragon body in the surging black fog. She hovered in the clouds and looked down. Suddenly, the third vertical giant eye in between her eyebrows opened strangely. A terrifying barrier of light that could make one's soul tremble shot out from little Xingxing's third eye, enveloping the entire area. Oh! The faint roar of a dragon seemed to resound from within the curtain of light. At this moment, Jiangqin's deep eyes revealed a hint of fear as he was enveloped by the curtain of light. A vast black aura gushed out, carrying a strange pressure as it resisted the curtain of light. It's too strong. We're in big trouble now. Du Xiaofu climbed out of the rubble in a sorry state. With his abnormal defensive power, his injuries weren't serious, but they weren't light either. Blood flowed from the corners of his mouth. From the attack just now, Du Xiaofu was certain that Jiangxin's strength was comparable to that of Leizuan of the Divine Light Court. This was a terrifying and ferocious zombie that was on par with a venerable level expert. Buzz buzz. The black aura surged in the sky. Suddenly, the purple-gold heavenly tower behind Du Xiaofu began to vibrate again, emitting a faint hiss. This is really troublesome. Could it be that misfortune never comes alone? Du Xiaofu's face immediately turned pale. From his new artifact spirit connection, it wasn't difficult for Du Xiaofu to know that the soul of the murderous weapon in the purple-gold heavenly tower had begun to move violently again. Ever since they entered the sealed ancient land, the soul of the murderous weapon in the purple-gold heavenly tower had been struggling more and more violently. It had reached a point where it could no longer be contained. The bloodline of a true dragon is indeed terrifying, but your strength is still too low. Jiangqin spoke again from within the curtain of little Xingxing's third eye. With a wave of his hand, the black fog around his body entered the space. A claw mark appeared, and a wave of black aura pressed down on this part of the world. Chi 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 chi. The claw mark tore through the space and tore little Xingxing's energy curtain to pieces. Little Xingxing immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, which spilled into the air. The blood of a true dragon. I want it. Jiangxin growled as he looked at the blood that little Xingxing had spat out. There was an irresistible temptation in his eyes. Surging murderous aura immediately swept across the world, enveloping little Xingxing. Buzz. It was also at this moment that the sound of wind and thunder resounded through the murderous aura space. Chapter 889. The sound of wind and thunder shook one's soul. It was like the roar of a dragon, the roar of a tiger, the cry of a bird, and the cry of a turtle. Zombie Jiangxin paused for a moment in the face of this clamor. He looked down at the ground below. At this moment, behind Du Xiaofu, the square box on his back trembled and exploded. A divine weapon rushed out from within. Boom! All of a sudden, the entire space rumbled and trembled violently. The mountains in this valley were on the verge of collapsing, and cracks appeared on the ground. Roar! The divine weapon was dazzling. Its body was wide and purple gold, like the bones of a tiger or dragon. Inscriptions of the azure dragon and black tortoise flashed around the blade. The tiger on the hilt roared and looked like it was about to pounce. Dazzling talisman inscriptions shot up from the sword. Its power was like an erupting volcano. The roar of a dragon, the roar of a tiger, the cry of a bird, and the cry of a turtle were accompanied by the sound of wind and thunder. Roar! The heavenly palace of purple gold floated in midair. It was like a powerful demon god had awakened. It looked down on the world and could destroy everything. Is that the item that the young master has been carrying on his back? Sure too, Lin Weiqi and Dongli Diao climbed out of the rubble. They looked at the divine weapon wrapped in talisman inscriptions. Their eyes trembled. Zombie Jiangxin's gaze flickered as he stared at the strange divine weapon. This was the heavenly palace of purple gold on Du Xiaofu's back. The heavenly palace of purple gold was not being used by Du Xiaofu. Instead, it had broken free of its suppression. Through the new weapon spirit in the heavenly palace of purple gold, Du Xiaofu could sense that the soul of the divine weapon was doing something evil. It seemed to want to devour the black aura on Jiangqin's body to strengthen itself. Finally, it could break free from the suppression of his master's primordial spirit. Roar! As soon as the heavenly palace of purple gold appeared, the roar of a dragon, the roar of a tiger, the cry of a bird, and the cry of a turtle filled the air. The dazzling talisman inscriptions on the sword shone with dazzling light. The faint silhouettes of an azure dragon soared into the sky, a white tiger, a phoenix, and the black tortoise pounced on Jiang Chun. In that instant, Jiang Chun's deep, dark eyes finally revealed a grave expression. He ignored little Xingxing and Du Xiaofu. With a wave of his hand, a black aura, the heavenly palace of purple gold. BZZ, the heavenly palace of purple gold was. The heavenly palace of purple gold was filled with the howls of gods and demons. And two terrifying forces clashed as if they were about to tear apart the sky. Bang! Bang 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 bang. Jiang Qin's, Jiang Qin, Jiang Qin's God Jiang Qin's Jiang finally Jiang's. Boom boom boom. Rocks toppled and shattered. It was as if the heavens were falling and the earth was shattering. The heavenly palace of purple gold was filled with a fiendish aura that made Lin Weiqi, Stone, and Dongli Diao tremble. Du Xiaofu's gaze was grave to the extreme. He stared at the sky. Whether Jiang Chen won or the heavenly palace of purple gold, Du Xiaofu knew that in the end, he would be the one in the most trouble. Whoosh! Fiendish aura filled the air. Dazzling fiendish runes enveloped the area, causing it to tremble violently. Mountains crumbled and the earth cracked. It was as if there was an earthquake. What's going on up ahead? What a terrifying fiendish aura. An expert is fighting. Could it be that the artifact Emperor Qiaofeng has met his match? Far away in the valley, the profound talisman sect and the others had finally arrived. They stared at the distant valley in shock. Fiendish aura filled the sky. The earth shook and the mountains shook. For a moment, they paused, not daring to get too close. The terror of the army of spirit beasts, not long ago, still lingered in their hearts. The clash between the heavenly palace of purple gold and the heavenly palace of purple gold had finally come to an end. In the end, the powerful Jiangchen had been suppressed by the heavenly palace of purple gold. Within the heavenly palace of purple gold, a terrifying, fiendish aura rippled. While suppressing Jiangchen, it also devoured the surrounding fiendish aura into the sword. Jiangchen's expression finally changed. The fiendish aura was even stronger than his. Jiangchen was currently suppressed. All he could do was resist. He couldn't use any of his other techniques. He'd already pushed his aura to the limit. Fiendish aura swept out, causing the sky to tremble. Artifact Sovereign, how much longer can your nascent spirit trap me? The heavens are helping me. The heavens are helping me. A roar echoed from within the heavenly palace of purple gold, accompanied by gusts of wind and thunder. Go! Jiangchen roared. A faint golden corpse core the size of an infant's fist flew out of his mouth. The corpse core glowed with dazzling golden runes, like fireworks. A fiendish aura swept out, as if from the nine hells. It wanted to break free of the heavenly palace of purple gold suppression. Devour! Cried the soul of the heavenly palace of purple gold. Fiendish aura swept out, as if from the realm of demons. Fiendish aura surged into the heavens, shattering the heavens. In the end, the heavenly palace of purple gold swallowed Jiangchen's corpse core as well. It disappeared into the sword. Pfft. Jiangchen spat out a mouthful of blood-like liquid. He gritted his teeth, as if he'd used his final trump card. His aura swept out, causing fiendish winds to howl in the sky. Dark clouds filled the sky, and the fiendish aura was like black lightning. It stirred up enormous waves in the air, then slammed into the heavenly palace of purple gold. Bang! Bang! Under the violent impact, the fiendish aura shattered the illusory azure dragon and black tortoise, causing the heavenly palace of purple gold to fall to the ground. The heavenly palace of purple gold emitted a buzzing sound, then fell beside Du Xiaofu. Its tip pierced into the ground, causing it to crack and crumble into fine powder. Puff! Jiangchen spat out another mouthful of blood-like liquid and stumbled to the ground. He staggered backward, then steadied himself. His aura was much weaker now. The terrifying fiendish aura and fiendish aura all around him began to dissipate. Even the black aura that had originally covered the sky slowly dissipated. Du Xiaofu picked up the heavenly palace of purple gold. From the new artifact spirit, he learned that the soul of the heavenly palace of purple gold had suddenly calmed down, as if it was being suppressed by the seal within. However, Jiangshan's corpse core had indeed fallen into the heavenly palace of purple gold and was emanating a fiendish aura. The soul of the heavenly palace of purple gold wanted to devour the fiendish aura within the corpse core, but it seemed to be suppressed by the seal once more. Du Xiaofu frowned slightly. Just now, the heavenly palace of purple gold had suddenly erupted with power to suppress Jiangshan. It wanted to devour the fiendish aura within Jiangshan's body to strengthen itself and break through the seal his master, the artifact sovereign, had placed with his nascent spirit. Perhaps the soul of the heavenly palace of purple gold had been secretly hiding its energy source for the past few years, waiting to break free of the seal. Unfortunately, it had used up all of its energy when fighting over Jiangshan's corpse core. After all, Jiangshan wasn't easy to deal with. Your corpse core is gone. Now it's your turn to suffer. Seeing that Jiangshan's corpse core was gone, Little Star was undoubtedly the most excited of all. Its enormous body swept towards Jiangshan. Without his corpse core, Jiangshan's strength had dropped by more than a level. He was probably only comparable to a peak martial king. How could he possibly be a match for Little Star? Under Little Star's ferocious attacks, Jiangshan slammed repeatedly into the ruins of the heavenly palace of purple gold. He was in an extremely sorry state and couldn't even escape. Bang! Little Star's tail whipped Jiangshan once again, sending him flying through the rubble. This was Jiangshan. He had the body of a zombie and was the emperor of zombies. His physical strength was comparable to Du Xiaofu's. If it were anyone else, they would have been crushed to pieces by Little Star long ago. You're pretty good at taking a beating. Little Star had been incredibly sullen at Jiangshan's hands. Now that he finally had an opportunity, he naturally wanted to take revenge. He had no intention of letting Jiangshan off the hook. Once again, he pounced on Jiangshan. Stay your hand. We can make a deal with you. Although he was in a sorry state, his gaze was still deep and dark. His face was covered in dust, but his features were sharp and cold. Little Star, he said as he walked out of the rubble and looked at the little star. Although he was in a sorry state, his eyes were still dark and his face was covered in dust. A deal? When Little Star heard this, his golden eyes pondered for a moment. Then he turned to look at Du Xiaofu. Father, this zombie says he can make a deal with us. My name is Jiangshan, not a zombie. When Jiangshan heard Little Star's words, he raised his head slightly, revealing the perfect contours of his face. What kind of deal do you want to make? Du Xiaofu put away the heavenly palace of purple gold. His brows furrowed as he walked up to Jiangshan and looked him in the eye. By now, Jiangshan's corpse core had been absorbed into the heavenly palace of purple gold. His strength had plummeted. Du Xiaofu relaxed. At the very least, this zombie Jiangshan wouldn't be a threat for the time being. I can give you all the treasures here. They'll be of great use to you. But in exchange, you have to return my corpse core. Jiangshan looked at Du Xiaofu. Although his faint purple robes were tattered, his temperament was the same. Above his deep, jet-black eyes, his thick eyebrows rose rebelliously, as if they were innately proud. Chapter 890. When he heard this, Du Xiaofu froze. He glanced at the numerous talisman weapons, Dao weapons, cosmos pouches, and other items scattered about the ruins of the palace. His gaze flickered, and he looked up at little Xingxing. Don't negotiate with him. Just kill him. These things are ours anyway. All right. Little Xingxing nodded bluntly. His aura surged as he prepared to attack again. Wait, shouted Jiangshan. He looked at Du Xiaofu with a complicated expression. His hair, which had been tied up high, no longer flowed down his back like flowing water. Instead, it was extremely disheveled. Jiangshan gritted his teeth and said to Du Xiaofu, Your weapon doesn't seem to be yours. At least, you haven't completely controlled it. My corpse core can sense that there's a powerful seal inside your weapon suppressing the weapon's spirit. But once the weapon's spirit devours my corpse core, it'll be able to break through the seal. When that happens, the first one to suffer will definitely be you. Jiangshan paused for a moment, then said to Du Xiaofu, Give me back my corpse core and we'll stay out of each other's way. How about it? You know that I can't control my weapon. How am I supposed to give your corpse core back to you? Said Du Xiaofu coolly. Even if he could take out the corpse core, he absolutely wouldn't give it to Jiangchen. Once Jiangchen took back his corpse core, he'd be the one to suffer again. Father, this zombie's corpse core has left its body. It won't be able to live for much longer. Its vitality will grow weaker and weaker. In the end, it'll become an ordinary corpse. Little Xingxing gloated at Jiangchen's misfortune. After all, Jiangchen had suppressed him from the start. Jiangchen gazed at the violet gold heavenly tower in Du Xiaofu's hand. He seemed to be deep in thought. Then he said, "There will always be a way to take out the corpse core. My corpse core can sense that you've placed a weapon spirit within the weapon, but it's still very weak. It can't compare to the original weapon spirit. I have a way to strengthen your new weapon spirit. As long as your new weapon spirit is strengthened, it will be able to suppress the original weapon spirit. Then you'll be able to completely control the weapon and return my corpse core to me." You have a way to strengthen the weapon spirit? When he heard Jiangchen's words, Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered. His master, the sovereign artifact, had said the same thing. He had to strengthen the weapon spirits as quickly as possible. Only then would they be able to work together to deal with the souls of the murderous weapons. However, there were no shortcuts to strengthening the weapon spirit. One could only rely on oneself to slowly nurture the weapon spirit and make it stronger. Of course I have a way. The chances of success are extremely high. My corpse core is still in your weapon. Do you think I joke around with you? Jiangchen looked at Du Xiaofu seriously. I know of a place where there's something inside that can strengthen your weapon spirit. Do you think I'd believe you? A faint smile appeared in Du Xiaofu's eyes under the mask. Although this Jiangchen zombie was only a zombie, its intelligence was not inferior to the top of the human race. Inside here, no one can use external forces. Even if you know of a place that can strengthen the weapon spirit, I'm afraid that as soon as I use my weapon, I'll be attacked by the seal, said Du Xiaofu in a low voice. That place is completely different. Believe it or not, if you let the old weapon spirit within your weapon consume my corpse core, then neither of us will be able to escape. Jiangchen looked at Du Xiaofu seriously. A complex aura emanated from his body. His eyes were like black holes, mesmerizing. At least for now, I'm safe and sound, said Du Xiaofu. I'll think of a way to resolve this crisis. As for your corpse core, it's gone. I'm afraid you won't be able to hold on much longer. Jiangchen looked at Du Xiaofu, then raised his head slightly. His jet-black eyes glinted with arrogance. You're right. My corpse core has left my body. At most, I can live for a year. At the same time, my life force will grow weaker and weaker, and my strength will grow weaker and weaker. In the end, my corpse core will be consumed, so it's better to self-detonate. However, even if my corpse core explodes, your weapon is extraordinary. Even if it doesn't destroy itself, the seal will be greatly affected. It'll be enough to force the old weapon spirit out. When that happens, you'll be dead for sure. Jiangchen looked at Du Xiaofu, his arrogant expression filled with confidence. No one can threaten me, Jiangchen. Father, this guy really can self-detonate his corpse core, said little Xingxing worriedly. Junior Hall Master, Lin Weiqi, Stone, and Dongli Diao, who were riddled with scars and looked miserable, climbed to their feet. When they heard Jiangchen's words, they were shocked and worried for Du Xiaofu. If you're not afraid of death, then self-detonate your corpse core. When Du Xiaofu heard this, he smiled faintly and looked at Jiangchen. Besides, even if your corpse core explodes, you're dead for sure. Whether or not I'll die is still unknown. When he heard Du Xiaofu's words, Jiangchen's expression changed again. His jet-black eyes flashed with astonishment. For the first time, he looked seriously at Du Xiaofu. A moment later, he said, "Human, I underestimated you." "You're different from what I imagined," said Du Xiaofu with a faint smile. "Tell me, what do you want in return for my corpse core?" asked Jiangchen. "If you want my corpse core, it's not impossible." Du Xiaofu looked at Jiangchen. He was indeed worried. He couldn't let the evil weapon soul devour Jiangchen's corpse core. He really did want to strengthen his own weapon spirit. His gaze inwardly trembling, Du Xiaofu continued, "In the outside world, I have elders in the sect who will arrange to deal with the evil spirit in my weapon. All I need to do is strengthen my weapon spirit. I just don't know if you'll be able to leave this seal when the time comes. Everything inside this seal can't leave, but I'm different. I have the body of a zombie. Ordinary seals are useless against me. Although this seal isn't ordinary, as long as I enter your bag of the universe, you'll be able to take me out. Jiangchen looked at Du Xiaofu. There's no time to lose. I'll take you to strengthen your weapon spirit. I'm very familiar with this place, and only I know where it is. However, humans have never been reliable. Remember your promise. I'll help you strengthen your weapon spirit, but when the time comes, you'll have to return my corpse core. Otherwise, I absolutely won't let you off the hook. Beneath his mask, Du Xiaofu's eyes glowed. If he didn't take Jiangchen out, he definitely wouldn't be able to strengthen his weapon spirit. What's more, in the end, if Jiangchen really did self-detonate his corpse core, he'd be in real trouble. And if he took Jiangchen out and had to return his corpse core, Du Xiaofu was worried. Given Jiangchen's strength and terrifying methods, if he did evil in the outside world, he'd definitely cause great suffering. So, Du Xiaofu was conflicted. He didn't know what to do. After a moment, Du Xiaofu nodded at Jiangchen. I can promise you that when I make a promise, I'll definitely keep it. But you also have to promise me that when we leave the outside world and you get your corpse core back, if you dare to do evil in the outside world, I definitely won't let you off the hook. Du Xiaofu had been deep in thought. He'd thought about the outside world. Although Jiangchen was strong, his eldest uncle, Huang Zun, and second uncle, Fairy Yu, were more than enough to suppress him. Perhaps when the time came, he could let his eldest uncle handle Jiangchen. Then, he'd strengthen his weapon spirit and wouldn't go back on his word. When he saw Du Xiaofu's promise, Jiangchen's jet-black eyes flickered. He nodded slightly. So we're not going to fight anymore? Seeing that Jiangchen and Du Xiaofu had reached an agreement, little Xingxing reluctantly shrank back into his enormous body. In the end, he shrank back down to the size of a small snake and continued coiling around Du Xiaofu's shoulder. His golden eyes twinkled, and his aura was noble and fiendish. Is everything all right now? Dongli Diao, Stone, and Lin Weiqi exchanged glances, astonishment in their eyes. They hadn't imagined that, after a life-and-death struggle, they'd managed to reach an agreement with the zombie Jiangchen so quickly. Dad, it looks like someone's coming. Suddenly, little Xingxing's golden eyes flickered. He'd sensed quite a few people rushing over. When he heard little Xingxing and Du Xiaofu call each other names, Jiangchen looked puzzled, but he didn't ask any questions. Collect the items, Du Xiaofu said to Stone, Dongli Diao, and Lin Weiqi. Without further ado, the four of them collected the Dao artifacts, treasures, and pouches of the cosmos. Jiangchen looked at the four of them, his jet-black eyes flickering. Outside the valley, the disciples of the Seven-Star Hall, Sun Wu, and the others watched the terrifying commotion unfold, worried for the four people who'd entered. Whoosh, whoosh. In the distance, thousands of figures rushed over, bringing with them the sound of rushing wind. In a few flashes, they appeared in the valley. As they landed, Sun Wu and the others' expressions changed slightly. They were the disciples of the profound talisman sect and their allies. Figures landed one after another, along with their auras, after which, many pairs of eyes looked towards the broken walls and ruins within the valley. Junior sister Zhu Shui, the commotion just now should have come from here. A young martial marquis from the profound talisman sect glanced at Sun Wu and the others, then said to Zhu Shui. Chen Yin didn't see the artifact Emperor Qiao Feng in the crowd, nor did she see the other strongest members of the Seven-Star Hall. Her expression immediately changed. There must be treasures inside. The Seven-Star Hall must have obtained them. The artifact Emperor Qiao Feng, Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, and the others aren't here. Did they go looking for treasures? We fought the evil spirit army and suffered many casualties. If there are treasures, we can't let the Seven-Star Hall take them all for themselves. Some people in the crowd were in an uproar. Their voices grew louder and louder. In the end, many people wanted to charge directly into the valley. If anyone dares to take a step forward, don't blame us for being impolite. Sun Wu stepped forward. A powerful aura surged out of his body, shaking the air. Chapter 891. Boom! The auras of Tao Yu, Wu Ma Shang, Yu Mingyuan, and the others surged. The powerful aura that gathered together immediately intimidated many people in the crowd. The seven-star hall is so mighty. Do you think you can stop us? You are just a mantis trying to stop a chariot. The seven-star hall is nothing in front of the profound talisman sect. Chun Yin stepped forward with a cold look in his eyes. However, his face was pale. He did not know why, but after the great battle with the evil spirits, although he had suffered some minor injuries and used up a lot of energy, he had slowly recovered after consuming some elixirs. However, Chun Yin discovered that his complexion was still very poor. He even felt a chill beginning to spread within his body from time to time. Tao Yu opened his mouth with a cold glint in his eyes. However, just as he opened his mouth, a hand gently landed on his shoulder. A figure stealthily appeared beside him and said, "If they want to go up, let them." The figure was wearing a purple soft armor. The eyes under the mask were looking at the people in front of him. His eyes were clear and bright. After which, he looked at Chen Yin, and a domineering look flashed across his eyes. He said in a deep voice, "The seven-star hall does not need to compare with the profound talisman sect. For people like you who only know how to talk about the profound talisman sect and rely on the name of the profound talisman sect to protect you, you should be careful not to embarrass the profound talisman sect. For the sake of the profound talisman sect, I will let you go this time." After Du Xiaofu's voice sounded, Chun Yin trembled under his gaze. His eyes were gloomy and filled with hatred. However, he did not dare to say anything else. After all, Du Xiaofu had killed Xiao Hui, a martial emperor, on the Divine Lightning Mountain range. He was not afraid of the Divine Light Court. Therefore, Chun Yin was afraid of him. Du Xiaofu's words were undoubtedly sharp. When they landed in the ears of the profound talisman sect's disciples, they naturally felt uncomfortable. Even the disciples of the profound talisman sect, who didn't have much of a relationship with Chun Yin, felt uncomfortable in their hearts. After all, they were all from the same sect. A martial emperor from the profound talisman sect was just about to speak to Du Xiaofu when Zhu Shui waved her hand to stop him. Her gaze was curiously fixed on Du Xiaofu. At the same time, Dong Lidiao, Lin Weiqi, and Stone also appeared in the seven-star hall. The three men were riddled with wounds. Wu Ma Shang, Tao Yu, and the others immediately stepped forward to support them. When Jiangchen walked over, not many people noticed him. "Let's go first," Du Xiaofu said to the people behind him. At any rate, they had already obtained what they needed. At that moment, Dong Lidiao, Lin Weiqi, Rockhead, and the others were all heavily injured. He and Little Star were also injured. They needed to find a place to heal. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Sun Tian, Dong Lidiao, and the others immediately decided to leave. "Did the seven-star hall obtain the treasure here?" muttered a young man in the crowd when he saw that the disciples of the seven-star hall were about to leave. "Did the seven-star hall obtain the treasure? Don't tell me they want to just walk away like that." "We fought with the evil spirit army and suffered countless casualties. The seven-star hall monopolized the treasure. This is too unreasonable. Leave the treasure behind and let's split it equally. The seven-star hall can't monopolize it. I think the seven-star hall deliberately lured those evil spirits out to deal with us. Otherwise, why didn't the seven-star hall suffer any casualties?" As someone muttered, a lot of cheers broke out from the crowd. Many people immediately looked at the disciples of the seven-star hall with red eyes. It was as if they had seen the disciples of the seven-star hall snatch the treasure that originally belonged to them. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The low sound of energy breaking through the wind resounded. Several flashes of lightning flashed, and a few lightning fingerprints accompanied by a murderous aura filled the air. Bang, bang, bang. Low and deep sonic booms exploded. There were a total of 5 explosions, and 5 clouds of blood mist exploded. The 5 youths who were the most rowdy had bloody holes pierced through their foreheads or their chests by the lightning fingerprints in an instant. Soon after, the bodies of the 5 youths exploded in the lightning arcs. They didn't even know how they died. The crowd dispersed, and the noise from before instantly became strangely quiet. The 5 youths were all extraordinary. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dared to be so arrogant. They were all martial kings and were the top youths of some small and medium-sized forces. However, the 5 martial king youths were instantly killed at the same time. They didn't have any power to resist. The scattered crowd was vigilant. Then, all of their gazes simultaneously landed on the body of the weapon emperor, Xiaofeng. The purple soft armor on his body was still rippling with frightening lightning. The one who attacked just now was undoubtedly him. Even if I obtain the treasure, what does it have to do with you? You can look for yourselves, and I will look for mine. When has it ever had anything to do with you? A cold fluctuation rippled in Du Xiaofu's clear eyes under the mask. A domineering aura spread out. He looked at the crowd in front of him and coldly said, "Don't blame me for not warning you. If anyone dares to provoke me again, don't blame me for being impolite." Jiangchen stood off to the side, watching Du Xiaofu mercilessly slaughter the 5 youths. His eyes flickered slightly. "Xiaofeng, you've gone too far. Do you not put our profound talisman sect in your eyes?" A martial king youth from the profound talisman sect finally couldn't help but shout. Xiaofeng had killed several people. Although they weren't disciples of the profound talisman sect, it was undoubtedly embarrassing for the profound talisman sect. Du Xiaofu looked at the youth who had spoken and said, "I don't want to have any grudges with the profound talisman sect. These people aren't worth the profound talisman sect's attention." After he spoke, profound qi surged under Du Xiaofu's feet. His figure immediately soared into the sky and left. Behind him, the disciples of the 7-star hall also left one by one. The surrounding crowd looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Although they were somewhat unwilling in their hearts, no one dared to say anything else. The weapon emperor, Xiaofeng, was extremely domineering. No one dared to provoke him again. This Xiaofeng is so overbearing and arrogant. The expression of the martial king youth from the profound talisman sect who had spoken earlier darkened. "Forget it. If he wants to leave, we can't stop him. Ask those people to disperse. There's no point in keeping them here. Let's go inside and see if we can find anything." After she spoke softly, Zhu Shui's beautiful figure appeared in front of them. "Everyone, disperse. From now on, the profound talisman sect will no longer form an alliance with any of you." Guoming said to the surrounding crowd. Although there seemed to be a lot of people, after the battle with the evil spirit army, Guoming knew that these people were just a bunch of mobs. They only knew how to take advantage of others. When they encountered danger, they would all run away. If they were in a critical situation, they would only be killed by these people. It was better to keep a distance from them. The profound talisman sect is indeed unreliable. They probably want to keep all the treasures they find for themselves. As Guoming's voice fell, the crowd also began to whisper quietly. "This place is hidden and very safe. As far as I know, there won't be any evil spirits nearby. You can rest assured and heal yourselves." Jiang Chen said to Du Xiaofu from within a secluded gorge. Du Xiaofu looked around. Indeed, he didn't sense any evil spirit aura. This place was very hidden. Because of Dongli Diao and Lin Weiqi, Stone was seriously injured. Both he and little Xingxing were injured, so Du Xiaofu had no choice but to find a secluded place to heal. Soon after, Jiangchen led the group to this place. "Heal yourselves. I'll stay here and keep an eye on you. Even if some strange creatures try to barge in, as long as I'm here, they won't get close." Jiangchen looked at Du Xiaofu, his smile as proud as ever. "Don't worry," he said coolly. "I don't want you to die. My corpse core is still in your weapon. If you die, it won't do me any good." Du Xiaofu looked at Jiangchen. He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Then, with Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, and Stone, he entered the canyon. They entered a naturally formed cave. The cave was riddled with holes, revealing many glowing caverns. It was an extremely peculiar sight. This is a corpse core. After consuming it, there should be many benefits. However, you'll probably suffer a bit. Hopefully, it'll increase your cultivation. Let's heal ourselves first. Inside the cave, Du Xiaofu gave the first 3 corpse cores to Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, and Stone. In the end, he had no choice but to remind Stone. These corpse cores contain an enormous amount of energy. You're only at the peak of the martial king realm, but your body is relatively strong. Whether you want to consume them or not is up to you. Du Xiaofu gave the corpse cores to Stone in front of Sun Wu and the others. These corpse cores were treasures, but they contained an enormous amount of energy. Although Sun Wu's cultivation wasn't much weaker than Stone's, in terms of physical strength, Stone had a huge advantage. Heal yourself first. Stone took one of the corpse cores from Du Xiaofu's hands. After speaking, he directly stuffed it into his mouth. Then, he left the cave and sat down cross-legged in a nearby cave. He began to heal himself while refining the corpse cores. After a while, Lin Weiqi and Dongli Diao also left. Only Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing remained in the cave. Boom! The last corpse core appeared in Du Xiaofu's hand. This was the last corpse core he obtained from the old zombie. Its cultivation was comparable to a Nirvana realm Martial King realm cultivator. Its strength was even more terrifying. Within the Martial King realm, there weren't many people who could deal with the old zombie. When this corpse core appeared, the energy fluctuations caused the surrounding space to tremble slightly. Hiss! Little Xingxing flicked his tongue and raised his little head. His golden eyes stared at the corpse core with a greedy expression. Chapter 892. You've already eaten one. This one is your father's. Du Xiaofu turned around and glared at little Xingxing. His eyes were filled with shock. Du Xiaofu originally thought that little Xingxing was an ingrate. He thought that little Xingxing was a bottomless pit for spiritual herbs. However, it seemed that this little ingrate had indeed eaten so many spiritual herbs and was worthy of being the descendant of a true dragon. Not long after he was born, his strength was already so terrifying. He had countless tricks up his sleeves. Stingy, how can you snatch food from your daughter? Little Xingxing's golden eyes stared disdainfully at Du Xiaofu as she said angrily, I'm your father, so you have to listen to me. This is mine. Du Xiaofu said righteously as he looked at the energy spreading from the corpse core. Back then, the old zombie was comparable to the peak of the Martial King realm. All of its energy came from this corpse core. Qi. Du Xiaofu opened his mouth and sucked the corpse core into his mouth. Du Xiaofu knew that it was urgent for him to increase his strength. There were some terrifying evil spirits in the sealed ancient lands. They were even stronger than the rumors said. He needed to increase his strength to deal with them. Take Jiangxin, for example. If Jiangxin had been at his peak, perhaps not even all of the peak younger generation of the central continent would have been a match for him. As the corpse core was sucked into his mouth, Du Xiaofu activated the golden-winged rock cultivation method and a golden light surged from his body. Du Xiaofu could suddenly feel a rich energy surging out from the corpse core and spreading throughout his body. This energy was extremely strange. It did not seem like ordinary energy. What was even more special was that even though the corpse core was filled with baleful qi, the energy was extremely pure. It was also of great help to the origin spirit, and could even directly strengthen the power of the origin spirit. The density of the baleful qi would surpass even profound qi. At this time, Du Xiaofu didn't know that zombies, this kind of special evil spirit, mainly relied on devouring spirit and soul to strengthen themselves. Most of the energy gathered on the corpse core was also spirit and soul power. Therefore, to a spirit talisman master, the corpse core was also a treasure. However, if one wanted to obtain a zombie's corpse core in the outside world, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens. Zombies only existed in some ancient legends in the outside world, so how could one obtain a corpse core? Even if there were zombies in the outside world, only the hairy zombies could condense corpse cores. That was a terrifying existence that was equivalent to a martial emperor realm cultivator or a beast emperor realm cultivator. The golden-winged rock cultivation technique was able to devour the flesh and blood of demonic beasts for its own use. Compared to the human cultivation technique, it was much more overbearing and tyrannical. Otherwise, it would not be able to devour the flesh and blood of other top demonic beasts without any scruples. At this moment, under the operation of the golden-winged rock cultivation technique, the corpse core was also treated as the flesh and blood of other top-grade monster beasts, absorbing and refining the energy. He didn't know if it was because of the golden-winged rock cultivation technique, But the energy of the corpse core was much easier to absorb than Du Xiaofu had imagined. Pure energy continuously gushed out from the corpse core. Although it filled Du Xiaofu's body and caused Du Xiaofu's body to swell as if it was about to explode, for Du Xiaofu's body, it was enough to support it. The energy fluctuations were like a golden mist that rippled outside. In the end, it shrouded Du Xiaofu's body and enveloped Du Xiaofu's body, which was sitting cross-legged. Along with Du Xiaofu's breathing, the golden mist fluctuations were like a golden spirit snake that circulated around the surface of his body. How can I have such a stingy godfather? I wonder where my real father is now. Little Xingxing had already jumped to the side and looked at Du Xiaofu, who was shrouded in the golden mist. After rolling his golden eyes, there was some longing in his eyes. In the end, little Xingxing also began to cultivate. On his small body, there was a lot of light lingering on the surface of his body, and a lot of different energy fluctuations were fluctuating on his body. The light flickered and was colorful like a divine radiance, revealing the supreme aura of a monster beast. In the quiet and dim cave, time slowly passed, and the aura of the man and the dragon slowly strengthened. But if an outsider saw this kind of slowly strengthening aura, who knew how shocked they would be? To ordinary cultivators, the enhanced aura was like a flying arrow that shot up like a flying arrow. In the sealed ancient land, time slowly passed, and everyone continued to eliminate the evil spirits. It had been almost 3 months, and as everyone went deeper, more and more evil spirits appeared and became stronger. A large number of evil spirits were eliminated, and countless people died. Of course, in this sealed ancient land, there would occasionally be news of people obtaining amazing treasures. It was rumored that some people found an expert's cave abode, and some people obtained natural treasures and broke through after consuming them. Among them, the most popular one in the sealed ancient land was undoubtedly a young man called Yi Piaoling, who obtained the inheritance of an ancient expert. There was also a mysterious young man from the beast race who obtained the inheritance of an ancient heavenly fox. Yi Piaoling and the mysterious young man from the beast race now had a common characteristic. Now, these two people not only had to face the terrifying evil spirits, but they also had to face the encirclement of everyone who wanted to obtain their inheritance. That kind of inheritance was an irresistible temptation to all cultivators. In the Abyss Canyon, black mist surged, and the aura fluctuated. A man in a light purple robe stood quietly like a statue. He slightly raised his head, and the outline of his face was perfect. Chi. Suddenly, there was a fluctuation in the space, and the black mist surged, and 3 figures wrapped in the black mist appeared. They were 2 men and 1 woman. One was a thin, middle-aged man in a black robe. His body was faintly discernible, and he wore a black robe hat, revealing only a pair of blood-red eyes. The other was a burly man in black robes. His body was faintly discernible, and he had short red hair that resembled a mane. His eyes were suffused with blood-red light. The woman, on the other hand, looked extremely young. She seemed to be around 27 or 28 years old. She wore a bright red silk dress that trailed on the ground, and her beautiful black hair was tied up with a few bright red hair ribbons. Her entire face was bare of makeup, but she had a natural beauty that seemed to say, when pearls are still and unmoving, the impurities are gone and innocence is revealed. The woman's temperament was as elegant and pure as a budding lotus flower, but it also contained a hint of seductiveness. She was soft and gentle, but also firm and cold. When the 3 of them appeared, the space around them suddenly trembled. Once every 30 years. Aren't you busy with the final reel? Jiangxin turned his head and looked at the 3 people in front of him. His jet-black eyes rippled, and his rebellious eyebrows arched in a proud arc. I heard your corpse servants were destroyed. We came to take a look, said the woman. Her voice was like the sound of nature. Her bright red hair fluttered in the wind, and her slender figure was curvaceous and graceful. Although she was elegant and beautiful, her temperament was cold and elegant. They're just corpse servants. If I want, I can have countless of them, said Jiangxin. Jiangxin spoke, his eyes brimming with confidence. Do you really not plan on participating? The seal is already weakening. As long as we have enough energy, we'll be able to break through and leave." The woman took a few steps forward. Her steps were light and graceful, and the pendants on her bright red silk dress tinkled. Her jade-like skin was flushed red, and her eyes were boundlessly enchanting. Anyone who looked at them would be entranced. "I told you long ago," said Jiangchen coolly, looking at the woman in the bright red dress. "I'm not like you. We don't interfere with each other's business. If you don't disturb me, I won't meddle in your affairs. Jiangchen, you've been unable to advance any further. Inside the seal, it's hard for us to have a chance. If you join us, our chances will be even greater," said the burly man in black robes. Red light flashed in his eyes as he looked at Jiangchen. "Those who walk different paths cannot make plans together," said Jiangchen. "This is our last chance, an enormous one. We've been waiting for this day for so many years. Finally, the time has come. If we miss this opportunity, we'll have to wait another 30 years. By then, the humans will have made their preparations," said the black-robed, black-hooded middle-aged man. Only his eyes were visible. His voice was cold and sinister, as if it came from the nine hells. "I won't participate. Do as you please." Jiangchen looked at the black-robed man. "I won't say it again. You may leave." The woman, the burly man, and the middle-aged man looked at each other. Their eyes rippled with mysterious light. Then, their bodies transformed into smoke and vanished without a trace. Phew! As soon as the three of them disappeared, Jiangchen exhaled deeply. Time slowly passed in the quiet space. To a cultivator, time was like flowing sand that silently vanished while they were regulating their breathing. It's already been 20 days. Why hasn't the junior pontiff come out yet? Senior brother Dongli Diao and senior sister Lin Weiqi haven't come out either. Where's Stone? That guy doesn't seem to have come out either. Within the chasm gorge, the disciples of the 7-star hall gathered together. 20 days had passed. They'd all taken medicinal pills to heal their injuries and had long since recovered. Only Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Stone, and Du Xiaofu had yet to come out. "Have you all recovered?" said a voice. It was sweet and clear. A woman in a fiery red dress emerged from a cave in the gorge. She descended in a graceful arc. Her beautiful face radiated a noble, heroic air. She was as beautiful as spring plum blossoms blooming with snow, as divine as autumn frost. It was impossible to look at her directly. "Senior Sister Lin, we've all recovered." When they saw her, the 7-star hall disciples were delighted. It was Lin Weiqi. Chapter 893. Swish. As the crowd spoke, another figure flew out of a cave not far away. A handsome young man landed beside Lin Weiqi with a satisfied smile on his face. He seemed to be in a good mood. Lin Weiqi's beautiful eyes stared at the young man who just came out. Her eyes were filled with surprise, but there was no exception. She opened her mouth and asked, "How far have you progressed?" "I just reached the peak. Once the opportunity comes, I might be able to break through to the mysterious realm." Dongli Jiao looked at Lin Weiqi and felt the invisible energy fluctuations spreading out from the graceful figure. The corners of his mouth rose slightly as he said softly, "It seems that you have made great progress. I'm just a little bit away. I'm half a step into the mysterious realm." Lin Weiqi smiled. Boom. As Lin Weiqi's voice faded, a loud noise came from a cave not far away. It was as if the entire abyss was trembling. Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, and the others looked in the direction of the ripples of energy. They saw the energy of heaven and earth rushing in from all directions. It formed a whirlpool and poured into the cave. The cave seemed to be a bottomless pit. It could devour the energy of heaven and earth around it endlessly. A new aura came out of the cave. The aura caused the Xin Qi of the 7-star hall disciples to stagnate. They trembled under the pressure. "It's Stone. He's starting to reach the Emperor realm." Lin Weiqi and Dongli Diao looked at each other. They were familiar with the aura in the small cave where Stone was. Stone was breaking through to the Emperor realm. The aura was even more powerful than when they broke through. Several hours later, the surrounding heaven and earth energy finally dissipated. Then, a terrifying aura shot out from the cave like a dragon soaring into the sky. The oppressive aura was powerful and shocking. Swish! Stone's figure flew out of the cave and landed on the ground. A powerful aura came from his body and shook the surrounding space. The seven-star hall disciples looked at him with envy. It was the aura of a martial emperor. Stone had truly stepped into the emperor realm. Time passed slowly in the cave where Du Xiaofu was. It was quiet and boring. However, cultivators didn't find it boring at all. A vast golden xian qi spread out from Du Xiaofu's body and filled the entire cave. Whoosh! The golden xian qi around Du Xiaofu surged like a tide. He didn't know when it started, but the energy of heaven and earth in the surroundings had already begun to converge. It was like a storm was howling, and it was extremely violent. However, Du Xiaofu, who was cultivating, was oblivious to all of this. On the other hand, in the outside world, the space trembled. An invisible aura filled the abyss, causing Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, and the others to be surprised. Third young master is about to break through? The aura. Stone stood on a rock and looked at the cave in front of him. He couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The fluctuation of the aura was too ferocious and terrifying. The aura of the young hall master is incomparable to that of a martial emperor at the Nirvana realm. I wonder how strong the young hall master's body is. How strong is the sacred gate in his body to have such a terrifying aura? Dongli Diao exclaimed. The fluctuation of the aura made him gasp. His pride as a cloud-piercing phoenix blood eagle was gradually shaken, and he lost his confidence. My state of mind was too narrow and my vision was too high. Fortunately, I found out early. Lin Weiqi smiled bitterly. She was still beautiful and intoxicating. Within the mountain cave, the surrounding natural energy finally began to calm down after a long while. A new aura swept out in an incomparably overbearing manner, causing the Seven Stars Hall disciples in the deep abyss to be shaken to the point of prostrating themselves. Far away in the abyss, on a stone wall, Jiangchen looked down into the abyss. He lowered his head slightly. The outline of his face was also perfect. He muttered, "It seems that I have underestimated this human." Inside the cave, as the energy of heaven and earth around them calmed down, it didn't have time to disperse. Suddenly, the energy of heaven and earth fluctuated again. Inside the cave, another aura began to soar. When the overbearing aura dissipated, a white light spread out from the cave like a divine light. The aura emitted from the white divine light seemed to contain the mysteries of the changes of all things in the world. An ancient divine power rippled. He broke through at the same time. He is also breaking through at the level of a spiritual talisman master. Lin Weiqi looked in the direction of the cave. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock, rippling like the tide. No one knew how much time had passed. Inside the cave, the white divine light around Du Xiaofu's body continued to rise as his aura continued to rise. It was filled with a faint rune light. The divine light fluctuated, appearing extremely mysterious. All of this continued until the rising aura around Du Xiaofu's body finally stabilized. Only then did the white divine light around him disappear. Tisk. His eyelashes trembled slightly. Du Xiaofu's tightly shut eyes opened slightly. The light in his eyes flickered and disappeared quickly. It made his gaze even brighter and deeper. Huff! Du Xiaofu exhaled a long breath of turbid air from his stomach and throat. Then, a smile involuntarily appeared in his eyes under the mask. Seven-star talisman master is mysterious. Du Xiaofu smiled. After breaking through to the mysterious level of a seven-star talisman master, he felt that the Yuan spirit in his Naiwen palace was several times stronger than before. Du Xiaofu knew that all of this was because of the old zombie's corpse core. The energy it contained was terrifyingly vast, and it had great benefits for the Yuan spirit. In addition to the few months of training in the sealed ancient land, as well as some small benefits he had obtained from it. In addition, he had obtained the remnant of the mysterious cultivation method in the beast bone from the Du family's martial repository. As a foundation, his level of talisman master had improved. Ever since he cultivated the remnant of the mysterious cultivation method in the beast bone, Du Xiaofu didn't cultivate the Great One Soul mantra that his elder brother Jin Qingchun had given him. Cultivating the remnant of the mysterious cultivation method didn't require too much cultivation. It could allow one's mental energy to soar. If it wasn't for the remnant of the mysterious cultivation method, Du Xiaofu estimated that it would take him at least a period of time to break through to the mysterious level of a 7-star talisman master. It wouldn't be so fast. Father, you broke through again? Little Xingxing's tender voice sounded clearly. Her small body swept behind Du Xiaofu. Her thin wings fluttered gently. She was extremely cute. It was impossible to imagine how ferocious and terrifying the real body of this little guy was. I broke through. Du Xiaofu smiled. Not only did he advance in the level of Talisman Master, but he also stepped into the mysterious level of the Martial Emperor realm in martial arts. The corpse core was simply a treasure. Just the benefits of the corpse core were enough to make this trip to the sealed ancient land worthwhile. Feeling the divine watchtower in his body expanding once again and the vigorous, profound energy within it, Du Xiaofu's mind moved slightly and surging profound energy filled his surroundings. With a wave of his hand, he swept across the space in front of him and traces of fine ripples that seemed to have substance appeared in the void. The mysterious martial emperor realm, feeling the vigorous, profound energy in his body, Du Xiaofu couldn't help but smile. The comfortable feeling of having one's strength soar after breaking through was too alluring for cultivators. It was a huge temptation that no cultivator could refuse. The mysterious martial emperor realm. I don't know when I will be able to reach the other side of the martial emperor realm, Du Xiaofu muttered in his heart. Every time his cultivation improved, he knew that he was one step closer to his goal. One day, when he became the top expert in the world, his dream would be realized. Young Palace Master, congratulations on your breakthrough. After a moment, when Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing both raised their heads and walked out of the cave, Lin Weiqi put away the shock in her heart and smiled sweetly. At this moment, she could feel that although the young man in front of her had restrained his aura, however, compared to before, that invisible aura had increased enormously. This is only the mysterious level of the martial emperor realm. It is still far from the revered level. Du Xiaofu slightly stretched his body. The crisp sound of bones stretching could be heard from his body. At this moment, the mysterious martial emperor realm was still too far away to break through to the revered level. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Sun Wu, and the others could only look at each other. In the end, they rolled their eyes at Du Xiaofu. The revered level experts had all cultivated for hundreds or thousands of years. Even the most talented people would need at least 200 years or more to do so. Being a supremacy wasn't something that could be broken through just by relying on one's talent alone. At this moment, the young man in front of them, even if he had cultivated from his mother's womb, it would only take him more than 20 years to reach the mysterious martial emperor realm. However, he was still not satisfied. Not long ago, during the Seven Palaces conference, the young man in front of them was only at the peak of the martial king realm and the complete 6 stars realm. Now, not long after, the young man in front of them had already reached the mysterious martial emperor realm. This made Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, and the others speechless. Don't discourage us, Dongli Diao could not help but say to Du Xiaofu. He realized where his confidence came from. It was simply incomparable to the guy in front of them. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly and did not speak. He looked at Dongli Diao and Lin Weiqi. The aura of the two of them had increased a lot. The corpse core must have greatly benefited them. Martial Emperor Realm. When his gaze fell on stone, Du Xiaofu's face sank. Then, he smiled. Just reached the Martial Emperor Realm. It is still incomparable to the third young master. Chapter 894. Stone rubbed the back of his head in a simple and honest manner. He clearly knew that even if the third young master had not broken through to the martial emperor stage, he would not be a match for the third young master if they were of the same cultivation level. Can we go now? It took you 28 days to break through. We don't have much time left. At the same time, Jiangxin appeared within the gorge. He looked at Du Xiaofu, his eyes as dark and profound as ever. 28 days, said Jiangxin. When Du Xiaofu heard this, his heart skipped a beat. 28 days. That meant that he had been in the sealed ancient land for almost 4 months. However, he had yet to find the Yin spiritual crystal. Looking at Jiangxin, Du Xiaofu seemed to think of something. "Are you very familiar with this place?" he asked. "Of course," said Jiangxin, nodding. "Then do you know where to find Yin spirit crystals?" asked Du Xiaofu. "Yin spirit crystals." Jiangxin raised his head slightly, as if thinking about something. After a while, he said to Du Xiaofu, "I remember now. There are Yin spirit crystals here, but they're in the hands of the vine monster. It's not weak. Even the 3 of them don't want to provoke it. Do you want Yin spirit crystals?" Du Xiaofu nodded. He was pleasantly surprised. Finally, there was news of the Yin spiritual crystal. He said, "Where is the Yin spiritual crystal? I must get it." "There's no time. It's impossible." Jiangxin glanced at Du Xiaofu and said, "I'm sure your ultimate goal in coming here is to obtain the ultimate opportunity. It's about to begin, and we need to strengthen your artifact spirit. There's not enough time. I need to take you on a short journey. We don't have time to go get the Yin spirit crystals." Jiangxin paused for a moment, then said, "It's not that I'm looking down on you. Although you and the true dragon's descendant aren't weak, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to deal with the vine monster." When Du Xiaofu heard this, he shook his head slightly. He looked at Jiangxin and said, "Even if I can't obtain the final great opportunity or strengthen the artifact spirit, I must obtain the Yin spirit crystal. Besides, I want the Yin spirit crystal for my weapon. If I want to suppress the evil weapon's soul, I must obtain the Dark Nether sect." Jiangxin looked at Du Xiaofu for a moment, then said, "I can take you there, but don't blame me if you can't get the final benefit." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A moment later, hundreds of figures flew out of the valley's abyss. Ah, Xiaofu, 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 Xiaofu. At this moment, there was a rather handsome young man in the cave. His face was pale, and cold sweat was dripping down his forehead. His handsome face was constantly twitching, and he looked extremely ferocious. Surprisingly, he was the profound talisman sect's Chen Yin. "Ah!" Chen Yin let out a shrill cry. Sharp fangs actually extended from both sides of his mouth, and they emitted a cold light as runes spread out. "No, I don't want to become an evil spirit." Chen Yin was in agony. He had been hiding here for half a month. He was afraid that his transformation would be discovered by his fellow disciples from the profound talisman sect. At that time, they would definitely kill him just like how they dealt with the other disciples. Over the past few days, many people who had been injured in the battle with the evil spirit army had gone crazy and transformed into identical evil spirits. They attacked their companions like crazy, and in the end, they could only be dealt with reluctantly by their fellow disciples. Thus, Chen Yin didn't dare to expose himself. When he felt that his situation was getting worse, he intentionally left the group and hid here. His entire body was turning cold. It was like his soul was numb to the point of losing control. Chen Yin's body was also turning cold. Coldness filled the air. His blood was about to coagulate, and fangs even grew out of his mouth. Chen Yin didn't want to die. He didn't want to die, and no one wanted to die. He still wanted to become the #1 disciple in the profound talisman sect. He still wanted to obtain that peerlessly beautiful woman. He still wanted to become an expert whose name shook the entire Central Plains. How could he be willing to die like this? His desire to live was boundless, and Chen Yin was stubbornly resisting it. Chen Yin took out a dazzling crimson bead from his cosmos bag. It was the size of an infant's fist, and he placed it in his mouth. This crimson bead emitted a blazing aura that was capable of absorbing the coldness in Chen Yin's body. This crimson bead was something Chen Yin had accidentally obtained from the profound talisman sect a few years ago. He didn't know what it was used for, nor was he able to study it. However, he discovered that it was extremely hot and wasn't an ordinary item. Thus, he had always kept it in his possession. Later on, when the strange coldness in his body flared up, Chen Yin placed this blazing bead in his mouth. He immediately felt much better. Thus, even though it was a horrible sight to behold every time it flared up, he was able to endure it under the effects of the mysterious crimson bead. As he persevered, Chen Yin even discovered that his physical body was becoming stronger and stronger. There seemed to be many miraculous changes in his body. It became extremely strange and also increasingly powerful. It had been almost 4 months in the sealed ancient land. The number of evil spirits had reached a terrifying level. To the people in the sealed ancient land, it was much more difficult than when they had first entered the sealed ancient land. Among them, many people had obtained shocking benefits, which had been supporting everyone's desire and passion. It was especially so for Yi Piaoling and the mysterious young man from the beast race. Both of them had obtained shocking inheritances, which stimulated everyone's nerves. It has been almost a month. I didn't expect Yi Piaoling and the mysterious young man from the beast race to still be alive. Instead, they have killed so many people. That young man from the beast race is terrifying. It is said that a martial emperor who had just ascended to the martial emperor stage also fell in his hands. Yi Piaoling is also terrifying. He has 6 people with him. Every one of them is tyrannical. When the 7 of them joined forces, they wiped out thousands of people. In the battle 10 days ago, the 7 of them killed no less than 3,000 people. Blood flowed like a river. In the end, they defeated the encirclement of 10,000 people and successfully escaped. During this period of time, the names of Yi Piaoling and the mysterious young man from the beast race had spread throughout the sealed ancient land. On a mountain top, there were hundreds of people standing together. There were a few young men and women who were extraordinary and had powerful auras. There were many people around the mountain top who were vigilantly leaving. They were either talking about evil spirits, Yi Piaoling, or the young man from the beast race who had obtained the ancient heavenly fox. Yi Piaoling, is that guy here too? On the mountain top, there was a mysterious young man in purple soft armor. Under the mask, there was a sharp fluctuation in his eyes. He said, "Find him. The matter of the Yi's spiritual crystal can be delayed. Let's find Yi Piaoling first." Could it be that you also want the ancient inheritance? Lin Weiqi's beautiful eyes narrowed. After spending some time together, she knew that this guy was ferocious and overbearing. Wherever he went, he would pluck the feathers of any wild goose that passed by. However, Lin Weiqi also knew that this guy definitely had his own principles. He would only snatch things that had no owner. He would only deal with people who offended him. However, this guy would never bully others. Therefore, Lin Weiqi felt that it was strange. Du Xiaofu slightly raised his head and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. He said, "There are some things that I will tell you in the future. In short, if anyone dares to touch them, I will not let them off." After leaving the abyssal canyon, Du Xiaofu did not expect to hear this news along the way. Yi Piaoling, who had obtained the ancient inheritance, was probably the only other person besides him. When he returned to the dark forest, Yi Piaoling and Qinggu Yu had come to the central continent to train. Calculating the time, it had been several years since they left. According to the rumors, there were several young men with Yi Piaoling. Du Xiaofu guessed that Qinggu Yu was also with them. At this moment, the 2 of them were being hunted by various forces who wanted to steal the ancient inheritance. They also had to face the evil spirits. Du Xiaofu couldn't help but be worried. The Yi's spiritual crystal was important, but Yi Piaoling and the others were in danger. They already knew the location of the Yi's spiritual crystal, so they could take a breather. However, Yi Piaoling and Qinggu Yu were in danger. Therefore, Du Xiaofu decided to look for Yi Piaoling first. Whoosh! Whoosh! Hundreds of figures then soared into the sky and left the mountain. In the dark space above the barren mountain, there was a faint purple-golden lightning flickering in the air. Find out and search everywhere. We must find Yi Piaoling. On the mountain, a young man wearing a cloud robe had a grave expression. The young man was Du Yunlong, the vice president of the World Society. He had already received news that Yi Piaoling was in danger and was searching everywhere for him. Yi Piaoling and Qinggu Yu should be together. We must find them as soon as possible. Du Xiaoman's eyes narrowed. She held the Tianwu Academy's badge in her hand and said, "I wonder if Qinggu Yu brought the Academy's badge with him. Maybe he's too far away. Let's continue searching." Whoosh! A figure flew up from the bottom of the mountain and arrived at the top in an instant. It was a young man in white clothes. He looked to be around 27 or 28 years old. He was handsome and had a slight smile on his face. His deep eyes were filled with tyranny and evil. He was emitting the aura of a king that could shake the world. Only the silver-winged demonic condor could have such a complicated aura. Vice Palace Master, we caught a few people and found out that Yi Piaoling should have escaped to the front. However, someone found traces of him. It's said that some people from the 9 factions are participating in the hunt. They want to seize the ancient expert's inheritance. The silver-winged demon condor said to Du Shaoqing, who was standing in front of everyone. On the demon's handsome face, there seemed to be a wanton and unrestrained evil smile. At this moment, the silver-winged demonic condor's aura was that of a true beast emperor. He didn't know when this guy had truly stepped into the beast emperor realm. Chapter 895. Find them for me. The World Society was created by my brother. I won't let anyone who dares to touch the people from the World Society go. Du Shaoqing's pure and innocent temperament was cold at this moment. Dazzling green light overflowed, bewitching, holy, and incomparably noble as she spoke in a delicate voice. In the dark space, black fog surged around like dark clouds. The cliff was so tall that it looked like it was carved by a knife. Chi, a figure landed in front of the cliff. It was a young man with silver hair. He looked to be around 23 or 24 years old. However, this young man was too beautiful. He was so beautiful that he didn't look like a human. He was so beautiful that one couldn't tell if he was a man or a woman. His long silver hair was untied and draped over his back. Under his delicate, feminine eyebrows were a pair of dark purple eyes that could steal one's soul. The corners of his eyes were slightly raised, as if they could make people flirt with him. The man's face was like a peach petal and his eyes were like autumn waves. His face was powdered and his lips were painted. This kind of beauty was hard to tell if he was a man or a woman. It could move both men and women. Chi. Fresh blood flowed out from the corner of the silver-haired man's mouth. One could tell that his breathing was chaotic. His silver robe was also stained with blood. The silver-haired man landed and looked around cautiously. Suddenly, his expression changed. Chi. Just as the silver-haired man's expression changed, the space rippled. 7 figures instantly appeared from all directions and surrounded the silver-haired man. These were 7 young men, and all of them had extraordinary auras. The silver-haired man glanced at the 7 young men around him. His eyes became sharp and he said, "Are you guys waiting for me here? Do you think you can defeat me with just the 7 of you? There should be more than one person. There must be others behind. Let's deal with them first." Among the 7 young men, a well-built young man with a head full of brown hair looked at the silver-haired man. His aura immediately surged out after his voice sounded. The vast and mighty aura was accompanied by a ferocious and wild aura that was mixed with some dark aura as it pounced towards the silver-haired man. Boom! The brown-haired young man threw a punch. It was as if a wild beast was roaring. Its power was unparalleled. It instantly arrived in front of the silver-haired man. Humph! The silver-haired man raised his head slightly and let out a low snort from his throat. A palm that was suffused with white light collided with the burly brown-haired youth and sent him flying. Ding ding! Although the brawny brown-haired youth was strong, he was defeated by the silver-haired man in just one move. If you want to obtain the inheritance, you're not strong enough. These 6 are my brothers, Changguyu, and Yicha, Duosha, Yin, Tianjue, and Gu Wuying. Yi Piaoling said to the silver-haired man. Yi Piaoling, you're the one who obtained the inheritance of the ancient expert? The silver-haired man was stunned. He glanced at the black-robed youth and the other 7 people in front of him and said with some shock, 10 days ago, it was the 7 of you who killed thousands of people and escaped the siege of tens of thousands of people? Ha ha! Among the 7 people, a thin youth with a murderous aura laughed out loud. He seemed to be quite proud and said, "Of course it was us. Those guys thought that we 7 brothers were easy to bully. When we killed them until they were scared, they knew that we 7 brothers weren't to be trifled with. That's right. Kill them until they were scared and didn't dare to provoke us again." The silver-haired man nodded and agreed with the thin youth's words. He then said to the 7 people, "I'm Silver Fox. This is a healing elixir refined by an extraordinary medicine talisman master. It's quite effective for healing injuries. It's the same for the Beast Clan. We're all in the same boat. There's no need for us to know each other. It's all fate. Yi Piaoling threw an elixir to Silver Fox. Silver Fox reached out and caught the elixir in his palm. At this moment, Silver Fox's elixirs had been used up in the pursuit last month. He really needed elixirs to heal himself now. After a slight hesitation, Silver Fox swallowed the elixir. He then cupped his fist and said to Yi Piaoling, "Thank you. Don't mention it. I thought you were here for us. Please forgive me if I offended you. However, I can't beat you anyway. We're even." Anya Cha, who was attacking Silver Fox, smiled embarrassedly. He wasn't Silver Fox's opponent. Now, he found a way out for himself. "You're welcome." Silver Fox smiled. Anya Cha's straightforwardness made him feel very happy. He then said to the 7 people, "Everyone, let's part ways here. Goodbye. Brother Silver Fox, if it's convenient, why don't you come with us? Since we're in the same situation now, it might be easier if we take care of each other." Yi Piaoling stopped Silver Fox. Silver Fox's deep purple eyes were filled with hesitation. He had always been alone. With the noble bloodline of the beast race, he didn't want to be with others, especially humans. Beside Yi Piaoling, Qinggu Yu, who was wearing a blue and white robe and had the aura of a ferocious beast, said to Silver Fox, "If you think highly of us and believe in us, then let's go together." Hearing Qinggu Yu's words, Yi Piaoling's eyes became sharp. He had a high-nosed bridge and a proud smile on his thin lips. He said in a deep voice, "As long as we can get out of here, we'll definitely take care of those bastards who besieged us." Looking at Yi Piaoling, Qinggu Yu, and the others, Silver Fox's hesitation disappeared. His eyes shone. Chapter 896. Found them. They're right in front. Someone found Yi Piaoling and the others. Even the young man from the beast race is there. They've already started fighting. Suddenly, a voice came from the front. Immediately, a huge commotion broke out in the crowd. "Let's hurry over. We can't let them beat us to it. We have to be careful too. Yi Piaoling and the mysterious young man are both extraordinary. We can only fish in troubled waters. What's there to be afraid of? With so many people joining forces, I don't believe that no matter how strong they are, how strong can they be?" The crowd was in an uproar. Their eyes were burning with greed. Numerous figures immediately swept across the sky and rushed forward in a densely packed manner. Whoosh whoosh, hundreds of people flew over and landed on a mountain peak. It was Du Xiaofu, Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Stone, Jiangxin, and the others. It seems there are quite a lot of people. This is the place. I heard that the young man called Yi Piaoling was found here. Sun Wu looked at the crowd in front of him. This was the information he had gathered on the way here. Du Xiaofu looked at the mountain peak in front of him. There wasn't a single blade of grass growing. Huge rocks were scattered all over the place. It was like a stone mountain that emitted a purple and gold light. Black fog lingered in the air, covering the space. Withdrawing his gaze from the distance, Du Xiaofu said to Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, and Shi Tu, "Protect me." As soon as he spoke, Du Xiaofu sat down cross-legged and formed a hand seal. Suddenly, a dazzling white light spread out from his body. An ancient aura rippled out, causing people's hearts to tremble. "Protect me." Hearing Huang Xiaolong's words, Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, and Shi Tu immediately moved. The auras of the 3 of them fluctuated and formed a triangle around Du Xiaofu, protecting him. Huh, what a strong primordial spirit. It's very special. Jiangxin had been quietly following them from behind. When he sensed the white divine light emanating from Du Xiaofu's body, a trace of surprise appeared in his deep, dark eyes. Jiangxin was quite surprised. He could sense that the power of Du Xiaofu's nascent spirit was unusual. It contained an ancient aura, as if it contained the mysteries of heaven and earth. As for Jiangxin's identity, aside from Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, and Stone, none of the other 7-star Hall disciples knew. Some 7-star Hall disciples were surprised by Jiangxin's mysterious appearance. Even the junior Hall master, senior apprentice sister Lin Weiqi, and senior apprentice brother Dongli Diao treated him with respect. The disciples could sense a hint of fear towards the mysterious purple-robed man in his politeness, so they didn't ask any questions. Boom! White divine light radiated from Du Xiaofu's forehead as he formed a hand seal. A dazzling beam of light shot up into the sky, then disappeared without a trace. Although Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, and Stone didn't know what Du Xiaofu was doing, they could sense that the junior hallmaster was using the power of his nascent spirit. This was undoubtedly the moment when he couldn't be affected. When the other 7-star hall disciples saw this, they instinctively clustered around the junior hallmaster, protecting him. Du Xiaofu was currently using his nascent spirit to cast a technique that allowed him to spy on his surroundings from afar. Although this was only a small trick, it was extremely dangerous to use the power of one's nascent spirit. If he encountered an enemy now, the consequences would be dire. Whoosh! A moment later, Du Xiaofu withdrew his aura and took a deep breath. Beneath his mask, his eyes were clear and sharp. He shot into the air, transforming into a streak of light that shot away like a bolt of lightning. His voice echoed through the air. "He's up ahead. I'll go first. Follow me." Rumble. Deep sonic booms could be heard from time to time among the mountain peaks, causing the space to tremble. In the middle of a huge valley, there were mountain peaks all around. Low and deep sonic booms could be heard. The valley was densely packed with people. There were at least tens of thousands of people, and the vast flat ground was densely packed together. Rumble. In the air and on the ground, figures flickered, runes dazzled, and waves of powerful aura surged. At this moment, an extremely fierce battle was unfolding in the sky above the valley. A 30-meter-long silver fox that was covered in a divine silver light exploded out with a terrifying might. Wherever it passed, countless figures were torn into a bloody mist. Kill. The other 7 young men were fierce and fierce. They were all like ferocious beasts, slaughtering their way through the crowd. The 7 people and 1 beast were Yi Piaoling, Qin Guyu, Silver Fox, and the others. The 8 of them couldn't escape from everyone's search and were discovered here. A battle was about to break out. Let's work together. Let's work together and deal with these people. As long as we can kill these people, we can get the inheritance of the ancient expert. There were at least 10,000 people in the crowd. They urged their huge meridian souls to roar and attacked with all their might. Their eyes were red with greed. The allure of an ancient powerhouse's inheritance caused people to flock towards the 7 people and 1 beast. Kill. Yi Piaoling soared into the sky. Her eyes were sharp and murderous. Waves of faint black Xian Qi spread out from Yi Piaoling's body. Each wave was fiercer than the previous one. The runes were dazzling, and the aura was surging. It could suppress everything. At this moment, Yi Piaoling was killing in the sky. No one could stop her. How terrifying. Kill. Qin Guyu attacked. His blue and white robe fluttered in the wind. He was like a ferocious beast, rushing into the crowd. His terrifying physical body was his biggest advantage in this sealed land. Wherever he passed, a large number of people turned into bloody mist. People were frightened and retreated. The battle was extremely intense. The killing was fierce and overflowing. Blood flowed like a river. The 7 people and 1 beast attacked with all their might. They knew that if they retreated, they would be doomed. Only by going forward and fighting to the end could they have a chance to survive. Facing the continuous attacks of tens of thousands of people, the 7 people and 1 beast were very tired. Their energy consumption was very fast. Although each of them was terrifyingly ferocious, they were also tired of dealing with it. Under the aftermath of the energy waves, they also suffered many injuries. Kill. Duo Sha shouted. His figure soared into the sky. Murderous aura surged and swept in all directions. Kill. Gu Wuying was extraordinary. His speed was as fast as lightning, and he left behind illusions. It was hard for people to catch him. Wherever he passed, countless enemies were killed. Kill. Yin Tianjue stood proudly in the sky. His hands formed into claws and swept across the sky. He was like a man holding back 10,000 enemies. He tore apart the meridian souls in the sky and many figures. His murderous aura swept across the sky. Rumble. In such an intense battle, the energy that spread out in the valley was like raging waves hitting the shore. It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. Rumbling sounds reverberated endlessly like thunder. Although the 7 people and 1 beast were unable to escape from the siege, they were all injured and consumed more energy. Under the terrifying attacks, the 8 people were like 8 killing gods. Blood flowed like a river, and the people around them began to feel more and more scared. Many people had already started to retreat and watch. They did not dare to rush over and attack. The 7 people and 1 beast were really ferocious. They were like ferocious beasts and killing gods. Kill! Yi Piaoling shouted. She swooped down and punched an extraordinary hero at the peak of the Martial King realm. His body exploded with one punch. Retreat! Hurry! Everyone who was besieging him suddenly turned pale with fright and quickly retreated. In a spurt of energy, the 7 people and 1 beast attacked ferociously without fear of death. They killed until blood flowed like a river. Then, they finally retreated. Except for Qianguyu, Yi Piaoling, and Silver Fox. At this moment, On Ying, Duo Sha, Ing Yin, Yin Tianjue, and Gu Wuying were all covered in wounds and blood was flowing out. Everyone's clothes were stained with large patches of blood. It was unknown whether it was the blood of their opponents or their own. The bloodstains and dripping blood made them look even more ferocious and fierce. If you want the inheritance, come at me if you have the ability. Kill without mercy. Yi Piaoling shouted. Her voice was like thunder. The murderous aura in her sharp eyes soared into the sky, causing the surrounding temperature to drop suddenly. The intense murderous aura sent chills down people's spines. Their hair stood on end, and their hearts trembled. Chills ran down their spines. In the distance of the valley, there were many people on one of the mountain peaks. There were close to 1,000 of them. Whether it was their aura or temperament, they were all extraordinary and extraordinary. In front of them, there were a few young men and women who were even more powerful. This was especially true for the young man in a red robe who was around 23 or 24 years old, and the woman who was dressed in an orange-red outfit. Both of them had an invisible aura that was able to stand out among their peers and attract attention like a crane in a flock of chickens. This was the lineup of the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court. After entering the sealed ancient land, although the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court had separated, many of their disciples had obtained many opportunities. However, the last 2 forces in the vicinity were chasing after the mysterious young man from the Beast Clan and Yi Piaoling. Therefore, they gathered together again. Cheng Shengnan quietly looked at the flat ground of the valley in front of her. Her long and slender legs and slim waist caused her originally tall figure to appear even more slender and enchanting. Over the years, her aura had also become increasingly noble, and there was an additional sacred aura to it. Yi Piaoling and the Pale Moon Silver Fox are indeed extraordinary. After obtaining the inheritance, they will definitely become difficult to deal with in the future. Dongli Qihuang looked ahead quietly. His slender figure was perfectly outlined under his red robe. It was as if he was born to capture everyone's attention. He seemed to be shrouded in a dazzling light. His eyes were so beautiful that no one dared to look directly at him. Then, he said to the 4 young men behind him, "This motley crew is not enough to achieve great things. There is no need to watch the show. The 4 of you go. Whoever kills Yi Piaoling and the Pale Moon Silver Fox will obtain the inheritance. It will depend on your own strength and luck." "Yes, Saint." The 4 young men immediately flew into the sky, for vast auras swept out and stepped on the void. Their bodies seemed to be shrouded in dazzling light. "You guys go too." Cheng Shengnan turned around and said to the 2 young men behind him. They were the other 2 martial royal realm cultivators in the Divine Light Court besides Xiao Hui. However, one of them had recently broken through to the martial emperor realm after finding an opportunity in the sealed ancient land. Chapter 897. Hearing this, Cheng Shengnan frowned. Light flickered in her eyes as she said softly, "However, try not to kill them. It's good as long as you have a chance to get the inheritance." The 2 young men behind Cheng Shengnan nodded. They did not want to fall behind the 4 martial royal realm youths from the Great Luan sect. They dashed forward immediately. Tsk tisk. In the next moment, the 6 martial royal realm youths from the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court appeared on the valley. 6 powerful auras swept out. None of the 6 martial royal realm youths were ordinary people. One of the martial royal realm youths from the Great Luan sect even had the aura of a new martial royal. In the air, Yi Piaoling, Qingguyu, and Silver Fox had just blocked the first wave of attacks. Suddenly, they raised their eyebrows. Feeling the 6 terrifying auras, the 6 youths suddenly descended on the valley. They were 6 young experts with terrifying auras. Yi Piaoling raised his head and swept his sharp gaze over the 6 youths. Waves of sharp and cold aura constantly radiated from his body, causing the surrounding temperature to drop significantly. The 10,000 people surrounding Yi Piaoling also felt the auras of the 6 youths. They looked at each other and began to observe. That's Ming Yucai from the Great Luan sect. It's said that he broke through to the martial royal realm not long ago. Gong Liangjin and Gu Liangyu from the Divine Light Court are here too. They are not weaker than Xiao Hui, who was killed by Weapon Emperor Qiao Feng. In a short time, someone in the crowd recognized the 6 youths and a commotion broke out. These people dared to gather tens of thousands of people to deal with Yi Piaoling and the mysterious demonic beast youth. However, they did not dare to attack the Divine Light Court, especially the Great Luan sect. Yi Piaoling and the mysterious demonic beast youth did not have any forces behind them. They were not afraid of them. However, the Divine Light Court and the Great Luan sect were different. Even if the disciples of the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court obtained the ancient inheritance, they would not dare to attack them. This was because even if they could successfully plunder the treasures here, they would have to face the destructive attacks of the Great Will sect and the Divine Light Court when they got out. At that time, not only would the Great Wheel sect and the Divine Light Court not let them off, they would also not let their sects off. They might even kill their entire family. For a sect of that level, it was definitely something they could do. Kill. 6 young men at the martial royal realm from the Great Wheel sect and the Divine Light Court appeared. They glanced at Yi Piaoling, Silver Fox, and the others with disdain and greed. After the battle cry, the 6 people's chi rippled. The terrifying chi was like an overturning river and sea. It immediately enveloped Yi Piaoling's group of 7 people and 1 beast. Kill. Yi Piaoling didn't retreat. She knew that there was no way to retreat. She could only fight with all her might. She waved her hand and fought against the most powerful young man in the martial royal realm. Rumble. When the 2 of them collided, it was as if thunder had exploded in the sky. Rumbling sounds rang out in all directions as countless symbols erupted. Everyone thought that Qingguyu, who was wearing a blue and white robe and looked like a ferocious beast, had a terrifying physical body. In fact, Yi Piaoling's physical body was not much different from Qingguyu's. Both of them had been refined by the saintly body art. How terrifying was that? Roar. Silver Fox roared like a dragon and soared into the sky. There was a strange light in her eyes. She was fearless when she collided with a young man at the martial royal realm. Kill. Qingguyu, Anya Qing, Duo Sha, Ing Yin, Yin Tianjue, and Gu Wuying were full of fighting spirit and killing intent. The 6 of them shouted and rushed out. They poured their chi into their bodies and dashed toward the other martial royal realm experts. Rumble. Qingguyu condensed a handprint and communicated with the energy of heaven and earth. He activated the talisman array on his body. At that moment, his physical body seemed to have awakened from a deep sleep. The talisman on his body burst out and turned into a dazzling sun. Terrifying chi erupted like a tsunami. Let's fight. Anya Qing and the others roared. They all used forbidden strength. Blood dripped and wounds covered their bodies. They were as ferocious as beasts. They all used their trump cards. At that moment, all of them had martial veins. Those 7 people and 1 beast are extraordinary, especially the Yi Piaoling. She should be an extraordinary person among the human kings. The pale moon Silver Fox obtained the inheritance of the ancient heavenly fox. In the future, she will definitely become a terrifying existence among the beasts. And the young man in the blue robe has talisman arrays on his body. His physical body is extraordinary. I didn't expect him to have such a cultivation technique. The eastern mythical scarlet phoenix looked up at the sky above the valley, at the great battle that was about to erupt at any moment. Her eyes glowed brightly as well. Among the 7 people, one was a human king, 5 were outstanding talents, and one had a terrifying physical body. The pale moon silver fox was not much weaker than Yi Piaoling. Outside of the 9 major forces, no other force could have such a lineup. Yi Piaoling and Qian Guyu are from the World Society. The others might be from the World Society as well. Cheng Shengnan said softly. Her eyes flickered with some complicated emotions. A slight gust of wind blew her hair up gently. It was a breathtaking sight. Hearing that, Dongli Chihuang's eyes flickered. He looked at the girl in front of him and said, "The World Society left behind by Du Xiaofu, the brave king of the Stone Dragon Empire?" Yes. Cheng Shengnan raised her eyebrows and looked at Dongli Chihuang. Her dimples showed. She said softly, "I beg you, just get the inheritance later. Don't take their lives. You are my fiancé. Don't say such things in the future. Your business is my business. There is no need to beg." Looking at Cheng Shengnan, Dongli Chihuang said, "I promise you. Just get the inheritance. I will keep their lives for you." After all, the World Society was left behind by the brave king of the Stone Dragon Empire. Although the Stone City World Society has established itself as the desolate country after his death, you are still loyal and cannot let go. I understand. I will not make things difficult for you. Thank you. Cheng Shengnan smiled faintly. Her cheeks moved slightly. Her bright eyes carried a power that could capture one's soul, making one feel ethereal and far away when they looked at her. The easternly crimson phoenix stared at the woman before him, causing ripples to appear in his heart. He had seen countless women and had been by his side in the past. However, none of them could move his heart as much as the woman before him. The girl in front of him always had a faint ethereal aura. It was difficult for him to see through her. It was because of this that he was captivated and unwilling to part with her. Rumble. A great battle broke out. The 7 people and the beast used all their strength. They did not hold back anymore. None of them could be defeated by their peers. However, under the attacks of the 6 extraordinary martial emperors from the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court, the 7 people and the beast were already exhausted and severely injured. They could not resist at all. The disciples from the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court were also extraordinary. Their strength could suppress their peers in the outside world. Rumble. After a long battle, the 6 young martial emperors from the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court used all their strength. There was a fluctuation of energy. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Dazzling runes filled the sky. Mysterious chi roared like a burning flame. The 6 young martial emperors from the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court gathered their terrifying attacks into a torrent of energy. It rushed toward the 7 people and the beast. Under the terrifying energy, the sky was boiling. The torrent of energy soared into the sky and drowned everything. Its power was shocking. Tens of thousands of people in the surroundings trembled in fear. Puff, puff, puff. Yi Piaoling, Silver Fox, Qian Guyu, and the beast tried their best to block it. However, they were still swept away and spat out blood. The bodies of the 7 people and the beast fell from the sky, causing the earth to shake and the mountains to shake. Big brother, second brother, you should leave first. As long as you can escape, you can avenge us in the future. Duo Sha climbed up from the ground. He was covered in blood. He looked at the 6 martial emperors in the sky. His eyes were cold and murderous. He knew that his big brother and second brother were the most powerful. They were the most likely to escape. There was no hope for them. If we die, we die together. The divine guards never run away. We will never give up on our brothers. Yi Piaoling stood up and spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked at the 6 young martial emperors from the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court in the sky and smiled cruelly. That's right. The divine guards never run away. Qian Guyu stood up. His blue and white robe was ragged. Runes shone on his body. The wounds on his body started to heal miraculously. If we're going to die, we'll die together. I, Anye Cha, have no regrets. Anye, she said to his brothers beside him as he stood up. Back then, the 7 of us destroyed the Dark Blood sect, swept the 36 islands of Changhai, and subdued the 18 caves of Ming Mountain. I, In Tianjue, have no regrets to die with you in this life. Tianjue's mouth was covered in blood. His smile was so sharp that it sent chills down people's spines. Big brother, we swept the 36 islands of Shanghai a year ago. I haven't told you about it. Thank you for taking the blow for me. Otherwise, I would be dead by now. Ing Yin looked at Yi Piaoling. His eyes were calm, but there was a tenacity in them. We are brothers. Yi Piaoling didn't say much. He looked at the young men who were covered in blood and said, My only regret is that I don't have the strength to protect you. I am not worthy of being your big brother. Chapter 898. Boss, we're brothers. Gu Wuying looked at Yi Piaoling. His eyes were red and rippling. Silver Fox put away his bloody body and turned into his human form. His handsome face looked at the 7 of them and smiled. Looks like we're going to die with you guys. I always thought that humans were heartless and afraid of death. Looks like I was wrong. If we can survive this time, I don't mind being friends with you guys. Being friends is better than being brothers. If we can survive this time, why don't you join us? Then we'll be 8 brothers. Anya Qing smiled at Silver Fox. Silver Fox looked at the 7 of them, and his deep purple eyes moved. In the end, he unexpectedly nodded and said, Okay, I have no problem with that. Why wait until we're still alive? At least we're still alive now. Yi Piaoling stepped out and looked at Silver Fox. We're not ranked by strength or age. We're just counting the time we've spent together. From now on, you're the 8th brother. After that, Yi Piaoling waved his sleeves and his robe shook. He knelt down on one knee. Dong dong. As Yi Piaoling knelt down on one knee, Qing Guyu, Anya Qing, Duo Sha, Ing Yin, Yin Tianjue, and Gu Wuying all knelt down on one knee and looked up at the dark sky. They said in unison, Heavens above, earth below, I, Yi Piaoling, Qing Guyu, Anya Qing, Duo Sha, Yin Tianjue, and Gu Wuying. Today, I, Yi Piaoling, Qing Guyu, Anya Qing, Duo Sha, Ing Yin, Yin Tianjue, and Gu Wuying will become brothers with Silver Fox. From now on, we'll go through thick and thin together. If we break this oath, we'll break this oath. Their voices spread in all directions and made everyone look at each other. Silver Fox looked at the 7 people who were kneeling on one knee beside him. His silver hair fluttered slightly, and his deep purple eyes seemed to ripple like autumn waves. He then waved his hand, and his silver robe shook. He knelt on one knee and said, Queen of Heaven, I, Silver Fox, am willing to become brothers with Yi Piaoling, Qing Guyu, Anya Cha, Duo Sha, Ing Yin, Yin Tianjue, and Gu Wuying. From now on, we will share weal and woe. If I break this oath, I shall be struck by lightning and have my heart pierced by arrows. Haha. As soon as Silver Fox finished his words, the 8 of them looked at each other and smiled. The 8 of them opened their mouths and laughed. 8 of them put their palms on top of each other, and their laughter reverberated in all directions. The fact that us 8 brothers can die together today means that our lives have not been in vain. Duo Sha laughed out loud, fearless. The 8 of them were still able to become sworn brothers in such a magnanimous manner, even in such a hopeless situation. All of them were fearless, and this caused the expressions of many spectators in the surroundings to change as waves arose in their hearts. Humph, death is at hand. Then, I'll fulfill your wish. In the sky, the martial royal realm mystery level Ming Yucai from the Great Luan sect sneered coldly. If he could obtain the primordial inheritance from Yi Piaoling, he would definitely become more powerful. The primordial inheritance would belong to him. All of you, go to hell. Ming Yucai shouted and moved across the void. Dazzling radiance spread around him like a holy light. He swooped down and a palm print swept toward Yi Piaoling, who was severely injured. The energy fluctuation was extremely terrifying. He wanted to obtain the primordial inheritance. Humph. Yi Piaoling shouted and raised his head slightly. His body was tall and straight, and his eyes were filled with arrogance. He waved his hand, and a palm print was accompanied by a rolling fluctuation. The fluctuation carried an ancient aura. It was the aura of the primordial inheritance that he had obtained. It was a pity that he had not had the time to integrate it. Otherwise, He would not be afraid of the martial royal realm mystery-level cultivation from the Great Lewin sect. All of a sudden, the two of them collided. With a rumble, boundless energy rune light flooded the surrounding space, causing everyone to be unable to open their eyes and look directly at it. Buffed. Yi Piaoling spat out a mouthful of blood. A cruel smile appeared on his face, and his eyes were filled with coldness. He shouted, "Qingguyu, I am the boss. I order you to leave now. Take them away." As he spoke, mysterious rune light spread out from Yi Piaoling's body. It was his primordial soul. Boss is going to explode his primordial soul. He wants to perish together with that person. In Tianjue was shocked and his body trembled. Big brother, no? Qingguyu, and Yi Ying, Duo Sha, and the others were shocked and shouted, "Leave! Leave! Leave as long as you can. As long as you are alive, there is hope. Avenge me in the future." Yi Piaoling shouted. His aura was terrifying and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He wanted to explode his primordial soul and perish together with his opponent at the cost of his own life. He wanted to buy time for Qingguyu and the others to escape. Yi Piaoling knew that he was the leader of the Eight and he was the big brother. He was responsible for it. It's too late for you to explode your primordial soul. Ming Yurai's eyes were filled with fear. He didn't expect Yi Piaoling to be so fierce and fearless of death. However, Ming Yurai was no ordinary person. He was one of the best in the younger generation of the Great Wheel sect. Ming Yurai's palm emitted a dazzling light that seemed to be able to affect time. That palm print was filled with destructive power, and it fell towards Yi Piaoling's primordial soul. Ming Yurai wanted to break Yi Piaoling's primordial soul and stop it from exploding. Otherwise, with Yi Piaoling's cultivation, he would be very close to Yi Piaoling's primordial soul. Even if he didn't die, he would be severely injured. Do you think you can still take his life? At this moment, a domineering and sharp shout resounded in the sky above the valley. The sound waves were like rolling thunder. It was so sharp that it could shake one's soul. A dazzling light flashed past like a lightning bolt and appeared in front of Yi Piaoling. As the light spread out, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Dark clouds rolled and lightning struck. "It's him, Xiaofeng." In the distant mountain, Dongli Qihuang looked at the lightning aura in the sky. His expression changed instantly. Rumble. In just a short moment, no one could see clearly what had happened. The space where Yi Piaoling and Ming Yurai were fighting had become dazzling and chaotic. Thunder rumbled. Then, a horrifying cry for help sounded from within the dazzling energy light. "Holy Sun, save me!" The cry for help was drowned out by the thunder. The dazzling light exploded like fireworks. However, under the dazzling light, there was a destructive aura. When the light dissipated, the lightning and thunder disappeared. The people around could finally see what was happening. At this moment, there was a mysterious young man in purple armor and a mask between Yi Piaoling and Ming Yurai. Weapon Emperor Xiaofeng. Many people recognized him immediately. The mysterious young man was Weapon Emperor Xiaofeng, who had been in the limelight in the Divine Thunder Mountain and shocked countless people. Yi Piaoling was not dead. His eyes were filled with shock. His aura, which was about to explode his meridian spirit, was forcefully suppressed by a vast aura. Yi Piaoling spat out blood again. His injuries worsened. However, he did not have to sacrifice his life for the explosion. As for Ming Yurai, there were many electric arcs on his body. His body was tattered and charred. He seemed to have been burned by lightning. Blood flowed from his mouth. Ming Yurai's chest had a bloody hole where his heart was. Electric arcs were surging and blood was gushing out. "How can you be so strong? It's impossible. It's impossible." Ming Yurai looked at the young man in purple armor in front of him. His eyes were filled with fear and disbelief. Then, under the gaze of the people around him, his body started to crack. Finally, he exploded into a mist of blood. The Great Lewin sect was a martial royal realm mystery-level cultivator. His cultivation was not exaggerated, but he could be ranked in the top 20 among his peers in the entire central region. However, at this moment, he was killed in one move before anyone could see him clearly. Phew, phew. As Ming Yu's body exploded, The sound of cold air being sucked in rose and fell one after another. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear. Xiaofeng, you are provoking my great Luan sect. High up in the sky, there was a furious roar. The angry voice made the hearts of those who heard it tremble. It was as if their minds were affected. Boom! As soon as the voice sounded, a dazzling light, which was like a holy light, descended. The light was so bright that it spread across the land. The sound of wind and thunder rumbled. Then, various dazzling runes appeared in the sky. The aura of the light seemed to cause one's mind to tremble. In fact, it contained an irresistible destructive force that wanted to kill Du Xiaofu. Dongli Qihuang, you are not strong enough. Du Xiaofu shouted. His eyes under the mask flickered with lightning, and his entire body was burning with electric arcs. Suddenly, a terrifying thunderbolt appeared in the sky. Not only was there lightning and thunder, there were also all kinds of terrifying and dazzling runes. With an incomparably tyrannical and disdainful aura, it swept out and collided with Du Xiaofu. Rumble. When the terrifying energy came into contact with each other, it made the valley extremely terrifying. The surrounding rocky mountains exploded one after another. Bang, bang, bang. All kinds of energy surged and swept out. The ground cracked and the mountains collapsed. It was as if the valley had become a land of destruction. This scene caused countless onlookers to cry out in surprise. Their gazes were incomparably shocked. Chapter 899. No one had expected the appearance of Weapon Emperor Xiaofeng and Dongli Qihuang to cause such a terrifying commotion. That kind of strength made everyone present feel ashamed of their inferiority. The terrifying energy dissipated as the ground cracked and the mountains collapsed. The dust in the air dissipated along with the Black Fiend. Everyone looked at Weapon Emperor Xiaofeng, who was standing in the air. His body was like a boulder, and his eyes were filled with electricity. At this moment, in front of the Weapon Emperor Xiaofeng, a golden-haired young man in a crimson robe stood in the void. His entire body seemed to be shrouded in light and was naturally dazzling. His eyes were brilliant. He was the saint of Great Wheel Sect, Dongli Qihuang. In the distant mountain, Cheng Xingnan's eyes flickered. Changguyu, Anye Ying, Inhu and the others had already taken the opportunity to bring Yi Piaoling away. When the 8 of them saw the sudden change, their eyes were filled with doubt and shock. That one move from the 2 of them made them realize how terrifying the strength of the 2 of them was. Xiaofeng, if you want to die, the 7-star hall will also be destroyed. The Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix looked at Du Xiaofu with a cold glint in her eyes. Ming Yulai had been killed on the spot. This was the greatest provocation the Great Wheel Sect had ever faced in the history of the sealed ancient land. Just this alone was enough to destroy Xiaofeng and the 7-star hall. Do you have the ability to do so? Du Xiaofu looked at Dongli Qihuang, and lightning surged from his body. How could Du Xiaofu let go of someone who dared to touch Yi Piaoling and Changguyu? Even if it was the Great Wheel Sect, he wouldn't let it go. It seems like the 7-star hall doesn't know its place anymore. Although you have some strength, I have to tell you that you are digging your own grave. You won't be able to walk out of this sealed ancient lands. Dongli Qihuang glared at Du Xiaofu with a murderous glint in his eyes. Without a doubt, someone had killed one of the top geniuses of the Great Wheel Sect in front of him. He would not let this go. If I want to go out, no one can stop you. If you don't want to go out, I can fulfill your wish. Du Xiaofu looked at Dongli Qihuang. Just now, he knew that Dongli Qihuang was unfathomable. Dongli Qihuang must have been holding back in that move. However, he was no longer the same as before. Boom. Dongli Qihuang did not speak again. His murderous intent spread, and the brilliant eyes of his spiritual soul fluctuated with light. It was as if they were about to turn into 2 vortexes of holy light that could devour souls and tear them apart. The Great Wheel Sect is really impressive. Whoever dares to touch the world society, my ancient heaven sect will not let them off. Then, the sound of wind breaking could be heard in the distance. Hundreds of figures turned into rainbows and flew over. Whoosh whoosh, hundreds of figures suddenly descended on the valley. Hundreds of young men and women stood together. Every one of them was a dragon among men. Hundreds of people stood quietly. Their invisible auras caused one's heart to palpitate in fear, especially the young men and women at the front. They were even more outstanding. Muhan, Inmachin, Guzong, Si Ruofeng. Du Xiaofu raised his eyes and looked at the hundreds of young men and women. His eyes secretly trembled. Those figures were from the ancient heaven sect. Situ Muhan, Inmachin, Guzong, Ji Aoming, Si Ruofeng, Mi Zixia, and other peak existences of the younger generation of the ancient heaven sect. The martial emperor realm is mysterious. Feeling the aura of Sima Muhan, who was standing in front of Inmachin, Si Ruofeng, and the others, Du Xiaofu was slightly surprised. He did not expect that Sima Muhan had also reached the martial emperor realm. She was younger than Lin Weiqi. In a few years, her cultivation would be even more powerful. Brother Yi, are you all right? In the crowd, a young man and a young woman rushed towards Yi Piaoling. The young man was handsome, and the young woman was delicate and beautiful. Du Shui. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. The man and woman were none other than Du Yu and Du Shui, who had been taken in as disciples by his third senior brother and brought to the ancient heaven sect. He never expected that the two of them would also enter the sealed ancient land. In these years, Du Yu and Du Shui had become handsome and slender. Especially their aura, they had already reached the martial king realm. Their progress was so fast that even Du Xiaofu was surprised. Du Shui. Yi Piaoling looked at Du Yu and Du Shui, who were descending from the sky. He had been to the Du family before, so he naturally knew Du Yu and Du Shui. Brother Yi, we heard about your news, so we asked around and finally found you. Du Yu said to Yi Piaoling, are you in the ancient heaven sect now? Is the president here? Yi Piaoling looked expectantly at the disciples of the ancient heaven sect in the sky, looking for the familiar figure. You still don't know what happened to third senior brother? Du Yu looked confused. He then said to Yi Piaoling and Qianguyu, Brother Yi, I will tell you about this later. I came with the senior brothers and sisters of the ancient heaven sect. Everyone is safe now. Yi Piaoling and Qianguyu had a bad feeling when they heard this. However, it was not the time, so they did not ask. Whoosh, whoosh, more figures appeared in the sky. Almost 1,000 figures flew over. They were all disciples of the Great Wheel sect and the Divine Light Court. At the front was a lady wearing an orange-red tight suit suspended in midair. Her long and slender legs and a slim waist that could not be hugged caused her originally tall figure to appear even more slender. Her aura was noble and cold. Du Xiaofu looked at Cheng Xingnan. There were some fluctuations in his eyes under the mask, but he soon calmed down. Looking at the people from the ancient sky sect, the easternly scarlet phoenix's eyes rippled. She stared at Sima Muhan, a beautiful woman around 22 or 23 years old, and the youth with sword-like eyebrows. She said, does the ancient sky sect want to interfere with the great Luan sect's matter? Or do you also want to obtain the inheritance of those two? The World Society was created by our young master. Yi Piaoling is a member of the World Society. If the Great Will sect wants to fight with the ancient heaven sect, then we will fight with you. Sima Muhan looked at the east-parting crimson phoenix. His eyes flickered with a faint purple light, and his gaze was sharp. You must be Sima Muhan. The martial emperor realm is mysterious. You're not weak, but I'm afraid you can't do anything to me. The easternly crimson phoenix looked at Sima Muhan, and there seemed to be a faint trace of fear in her eyes. You'll know after you try. I'd like to see the reincarnation secret technique of the Great Wheel sect. Sima Muhan's eyes rippled with intelligence and charm. It was enough to be called a peerless beauty, but the aura on his body was even more moving, as if a new aura was awakening. I'd like to see the reincarnation secret technique too. A woman in her 20s walked out from beside Sima Muhan. Her skin was crystal clear, and her eyes were full of spirit. There was a faint sea-like blue splendor spreading. The woman had beautiful eyebrows and a straight nose. She had dimples on her cheeks. She was elegant and noble. She was beautiful beyond compare. I'm Ruo Shuehan from the ancient heaven sect. I'm known as the #1 person in the younger generation of the ancient heaven sect. My body is special. I hope to have a chance to exchange pointers with you. Cheng Shangnan took light steps and stepped across the void. She walked out of the light path, and the light on her body spread. At this moment, she was in a three-way confrontation with Sima Muhan and Ruo Shuihan. Cheng Xingnan was no longer the same as before. She didn't look dull at all. They could compete. A young man with sword-like eyebrows walked out from the ancient heaven sect. Although he wasn't as handsome as Mi Zixia and Yin Machin, his face was sharp and angular. The young man had thick black hair. His eyes were dark and deep under his sword-like eyebrows. His temperament was wild and unrestrained. There was a wanton smile on his face. He looked at Cheng Xingnan and said, "I'm Cheng Xingnan from the Divine Light Court. Let me see how the inheritance of the Divine Light ancestor is." Spirit descent? Cheng Xingnan looked at the young man. She had heard about the top generation of the major forces from the Divine Light Court. The young man in front of her should be Spirit descent, who the ancient heaven sect rarely showed his face. He was a terrifying existence. Is the ancient heaven sect really going to interfere? Dongli Chihuang looked at Sima Muhan, Ruo Shuihan, and Spirit descent with a slightly fearful expression. The founder of the World Society is my junior uncle. It's your Great Wheel sect that wants to start a war with my ancient heaven sect. Ruo Shuihan's voice was as soft as water. It was like the sound of nature. She stood there, dignified and noble. She was like a lotus bud that had just emerged from the water. Let's do it. I'll accompany you. Spirit descent clenched his fists. His aura surged, and his temperament suddenly became fierce. The wanton smile on his face became deeper and deeper. Ruo Shuihan, Spirit descent? Could they be the mysterious top two on the gold roll? Du Xiaofu's eyes under the mask looked at the man and woman beside Sima Muhan. Their auras were unfathomable. They were probably the top two on the ancient heaven sect's gold roll who had yet to show their faces. Suddenly, just as Du Xiaofu was pondering, he raised his head and looked in front of him. The expression in his eyes under the mask trembled violently. At the same time, Dongli Chihuang, Cheng Xingnan, Sima Muhan, and Spirit descent seemed to have sensed something as well. They all looked up at the sky. The Du family is here. Who dares to touch the people of my world society? At that moment, a shout resounded through the sky, accompanied by a blazing aura. Dozens of figures quickly flew over from afar, and after a few flashes, they appeared in the air above this valley. Chapter 900. Several auras surged in the sky. In the lead was a charming and holy girl with an otherworldly aura. On the girl's shoulder stood a golden macaque the size of a baby. Its entire body was sparkling and translucent, and it gave off a heart-shaking aura. Beside the girl was a black-robed youth with pitch-black eyes. His entire person gave off a royal aura that could shake the world. A 27 or 28-year-old demon youth in white stood beside the black-robed youth. He was extraordinarily handsome, and his deep eyes gave off a domineering and devilish aura. His entire person gave off a domineering and sharp aura of a king. A cloud-robed youth floated in the air, his entire body giving off a forceful and domineering aura. Finally, there were two girls. One of them had a fiery and seductive figure. Her ink-black hair was as smooth as a waterfall. Her hair was loosely tied up, and her eyes were ethereal. The other was dressed in green. Her hair was tied up in a bun, and the thin strands of hair at her temples set off her peerless appearance. Her eyes were big, and her lips were red and tender, but there was no smile that could topple countries. Her cold aura was undoubtedly telling others to stay away. Following that, dozens of figures flew over. Although their auras were not too strong, and could not be compared to their peers from the Great Luan sect and Ancient Heaven sect, each of them had a unique aura. They could make one's heart palpitate and could not be underestimated. When these figures appeared, Du Xiaofu's eyes rippled under the mask, especially when he saw the pure and charming girl in green, the golden macaque, and the black-robed youth at the front. A smile appeared in his eyes. However, no one noticed it. The newcomers were Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, Du Xiaoyao, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, the silver-winged demonic eagle, Ouyang Shuang, and other members of the Du family. On Du Xiaoqing's shoulder, Du Xiaoyao's gaze immediately fell on Du Xiaofu. Looking at Du Xiaofu's eyes under the mask, her golden eyes moved slightly, and then a faint smile appeared. Big sister, second brother, Du Yu and Du Shui immediately shouted when they saw Du Xiaoman, Du Yunlong, and the others. Many of the Du family's disciples also landed on the ground. Little Blue and Silver Condor are here. Yi Piaoling and Qinggu Yu raised their heads in delight. They could sense that Du Xiaoqing and the silver-winged devil condor's auras were extraordinary. Du Xiaoqing's gaze swept across the crowd. The silver-winged demonic condor was whispering something in her ear, so she nodded slightly at Sima Muhan and the other disciples of the ancient heaven sect. After that, Du Xiaoqing's gaze landed on Du Xiaofu. Her eyes trembled slightly. She sensed something from that figure. He was very familiar, but his aura seemed to be extremely foreign. Cheng Xingnan, do you also want to touch my world society's people? In the end, after Du Xiaoqing's gaze swept past Dongli Qihuang, it suddenly landed on Cheng Shen. Her pitch-black eyes were cold and her voice was sharp. My world society and the Celestial Beast Hall worked for the Stone Dragon Empire. You are ungrateful, and now you want to attack my world society's people. If my brother was here, how would you face him? As soon as Du Xiaoqing finished speaking, Cheng Xingnan's eyes trembled slightly. They were misty and deep, with a hint of loneliness and arrogance. It was as if lilies of the valley were blooming in his eyes. Little Qing, I have never thought of attacking the world society. Perhaps it is a disaster rather than a blessing for Yi Piaoling. If the Divine Light Court and the Great Luan sect obtain it, at least they can save their lives. Cheng Xingnan smiled bitterly and pursed his lips. There seemed to be a trace of unspeakable emotion in his eyes. Ridiculous. Who dares to touch the inheritance in the hands of my world society? In front of some existences in this world, the Divine Light Court and the Great Luan sect are nothing. As soon as Du Xiaoqing finished speaking, a terrifying pressure suddenly spread out from her graceful figure and descended on this side of the valley. Accompanied by a monstrous blazing aura, the air in the surrounding space evaporated into white smoke. What a terrifying blazing aura! At this moment, countless people in the sky trembled. Under the blazing aura, everyone's meridians and souls could not help but tremble. The high temperature made people crawl and burn, and their souls were also about to wither. Du Xiaoqing stood proudly. The surrounding temperature surged, and the surrounding space seemed to have formed an invisible blazing sea of fire. She shouted in a clear and sharp voice, "Who dares to touch my world society? If you're not afraid of death, get up here." Roar, coo. At the same time, Little Tiger and the silver-winged demonic condor did not activate their bodies, but they each let out a roar. The sound waves rolled, and a terrifying black formation aura and a domineering and sharp aura swept across the sky. What a powerful beast! Under the terrifying aura, countless people in the surroundings were stunned. So powerful. In the crowd, Silver Fox, who was behind Yi Piaoling, looked at the sky. The two auras made his heart tremble, especially the aura of the black-robed youth, which was like that of a supreme emperor. As for the aura of the girl in green, it was like that of a supreme beast. It seemed to be slightly stronger than the aura of the ancient heavenly fox inheritance that he had obtained. The World Society's lineup is actually so powerful. In the ancient heaven sect, Sima Muhan, Qin Ling, Shui Ruhan, and the other disciples of the ancient heaven sect felt the aura of Du Xiaoqing and the others and were astonished. Especially Du Xiaoqing's aura, they had to be wary. The terrifying aura swept across, and Cheng Xingnan's face slightly changed. Hua Guang's eyes trembled inwardly. Dongli Qihuang looked at Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, and the silver-winged demonic condor. Then, he looked at Sima Muhan, Shui Ruhan, and Chen Ling. After a while, he said, "My Great Luan sect will no longer interfere with the inheritance. You can leave. I only want Xiao Feng to stay." As soon as Dongli Qihuang finished speaking, his murderous gaze was fixed on Du Xiaofu. The ancient heaven sect was in the ancient inheritance, and there were also a few extraordinary people from the world society that had suddenly appeared. If they joined forces with Xiao Feng, the result would be something that he didn't want to see. Compared to the ancient inheritance, Dongli Qihuang wanted to kill Xiao Feng more. Otherwise, the Great Luan sect would lose face. As soon as Dongli Qihuang finished speaking, everyone's gaze fell on Du Xiaofu. It seemed like Dongli Huang was determined to deal with the weapon emperor, Xiaofeng. Miss Xiaoqing, this brother Xiaofeng killed the people of the Great Luan sect in order to save me. Yi Piaoling raised his head and said to Du Xiaoqing. The weapon emperor, Xiaofeng, had killed the people of the Great Luan sect in order to save him, which angered Dongli Huang. At this moment, the world society naturally couldn't stand by and do nothing. Whoosh whoosh, in the distant sky, the sound of rushing wind resounded as hundreds of figures flew over. Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, and Stone had been waiting for the disciples of the Seven-Star Hall. They'd finally arrived. Young Hall Master, following which, Lin Weiqi and the rest landed behind Du Xiaofu. However, when they sensed the tense atmosphere in the air, they seemed to have some doubts. They immediately released their auras and became vigilant of their surroundings. Jiangchen followed the crowd, his jet-black eyes scanning his surroundings. His gaze swept over Dongli Huang, Cheng Shengnan, Sima Muhan, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, and the others. In the end, his gaze lingered on Du Xiaoyao for the longest. Du Xiaoyao's golden eyes also looked at Jiangchen. She seemed to sense something, and then a look of surprise appeared on her face. Dad, that guy doesn't seem weak. He's probably hiding something. Why don't we join forces and get rid of him? I have a feeling that if I can devour him, it'll be quite beneficial to me. Little Xingxing raised his little head on Du Xiaofu's shoulder, his golden eyes fixed on Dongli Huang, eager to give it a try. Hearing Yi Piaoling's words, Du Xiaoqing's gaze once again fell on Du Xiaofu. Her ethereal eyes rippled. Then she looked at Dongli Huang and said in a clear voice, "If you want to touch him, the world society will accompany you." Grandmaster Qingyang of the Ancient Heaven sect has long admired the weapon emperor, Xiaofeng. Now that he's stepped in to save the world society, the Ancient Heaven sect is naturally willing to lend a helping hand. Sima Muhan looked at Dongli Huang. Her beautiful figure floated in the air. Her long brocade dress outlined her charming figure. Mysterious talismans flickered as her aura fluctuated. Sima Muhan had already expressed her attitude. If Dongli Huang attacked Weapon Emperor Xiaofeng, the Ancient Heaven sect would definitely not stand by and watch. Do you think the Seven-Star Hall is a pushover? Try it if you dare. The Seven-Star Hall's old hall masters had appeared. After devouring the corpse core, their cultivation had increased greatly. Dongli Diao was also confident. He wasn't afraid of facing the Great Luan sect. After all, he had never seen the young hall master lose. Boom! As Dongli Diao's aura surged, Lin Weiqi and Stone also released their martial emperor aura. They were ready to fight the Great Luan sect at any time. Thank you, Weapon Emperor Xiaofeng, for saving the world society's people. If anyone dares to touch Weapon Emperor Xiaofeng, the Du family and the world society will not stand by and watch. Du Yunlong spoke. His aura was domineering and frightening. At this moment, Du Yunlong was like a sharp and intimidating cloud dragon after all these years of training. He was already an overlord of a region. That sharp and frightening aura had nothing to do with strength. It was the aura of a superior who controlled a region. People couldn't help but feel reverence when they looked at him. Dongli Huang's spiritual strength fluctuated brilliantly in his eyes. His face turned gloomy. It seemed that Dongli Huang didn't expect the Ancient Heaven sect and the World Society to be so protective of Weapon Emperor Xiaofeng. If he forced a fight, he wouldn't have any chance of winning with so many people joining forces. Chapter 901. Even with his trump card, he did not need to be afraid of the people in front of him. However, Dongli Qi did not want to reveal his trump card until the last moment. After all, the most important thing this time was undoubtedly the last great opportunity. In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, Dongli Huang knew that he could not reveal his trump card until the last moment. Jiling of the Immeasurable Sect, Wu Ming of the Intelligent Sword Sect, and Zhang Ruolin of the Shendu Gate were not ordinary. Senior brother Qi Huang, let's go first. Cheng Shengnan looked at Dongli Huang. She saw the situation in front of her. Against the Ancient Heaven sect, the World Society, and the Seven-Star Hall, even if the martial emperors of the Divine Light Court and the Great Luan sect were added together, there was still a difference. Once they fought, Cheng Shengnan was very clear that the disciples of the Divine Light Court and the Great Luan sect would not have any advantage. Dongli Chihuang's eyes were cold as he stared at Du Xiaofu. It seemed that he could not make a move now. Once he made a move, even if he could win in the end, the Great Luan sect would have to pay a heavy price. It was better to wait until then to deal with it. As long as he obtained the last opportunity, it would be safe to deal with the weapon Emperor Xiao Feng. After all, Xiao Feng would not be able to escape from here. Xiao Feng, someone is protecting you today, but no one can protect you forever. I said that you will not be able to get out of this sealed ancient land. The next time we meet, you will die. Dongli Chihuang waved his hand to the disciples of the Great Luan sect behind him and said, "Let's go." Swoosh swoosh, Dongli Chihuang and the other disciples of the Great Luan sect left. Cheng Shengnan waved her hand, and the disciples of the Divine Light Court followed behind them. Watching Dongli Chihuang and Cheng Shengnan leave, Du Xiaofu did not stop them. It was not that he was afraid of Dongli Chihuang, but there were more important things to do than dealing with Dongli Chihuang. As for the disciples of the Divine Light Court, Du Xiaofu did not mind killing a few of them when he saw them, so that it would not be troublesome when they were outside. However, it seemed that there was not much time to deal with them. Cheng Shengnan. Du Xiaoqing opened her mouth and looked at Cheng Shengnan's back as she said, "If my brother is not dead, you will meet him one day. At that time, do you dare to face him calmly?" Cheng Shengnan's figure stopped in midair, and her delicate body seemed to tremble slightly. She did not turn her head, but a voice sounded, "He is no longer here. If there is a chance, let me know who the enemy is and I will avenge him. Also, please respect yourselves. The world society is not weak now, but it is nothing in the central province. I have no evil intentions, but I hope that you will not cause trouble. The world society was created by him, and I do not wish to be destroyed." Cheng Shengnan's beautiful figure flew away as soon as she finished speaking. Du Xiaofu looked at the woman in orange, and his eyes moved slightly. Then, he smiled faintly. "Let's go." Du Xiaofu withdrew his gaze, and after he gestured with his gaze, he swept his gaze past Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaohu, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, and the others before flashing out and leaving. "Let's go." Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, and Shi Tu followed behind. Hundreds of people immediately left. This weapon Emperor Xiao Feng is really strange. He actually helped the world society. Sima Muhan looked at the back of the figure with a puzzled expression. Dongli Chihuang is very strong. He has always been hiding his strength, and his character is also very patient. This kind of person is very scary. As Dongli Chihuang left, Xiang Ling frowned. He could feel that Dongli Chihuang was difficult to deal with. Dongli Chihuang is the holy son of the Great Luan sect. He is the reincarnation of the top expert of the Great Luan sect. Although he has not completely awakened his strength, his state of mind is not something we can compare with after 2 reincarnations. We must be careful. There was a slight fluctuation in Ruo Shuahan's eyes. Her eyes were bottomless, and she seemed to be a little wary of Dongli Chihuang. In the valley, Du Xiaoqing, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, and the silver-winged demonic eagle had already gathered together with Yi Piaoling and Chang Guyu. They were talking about some things while healing their injuries. Silver Fox looked around. His gaze swept across Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, Du Xiaoyao, and the people of the ancient heaven sect in the distance. There was some fluctuation in his purple eyes. In the past few days, Silver Fox had heard about the World Society from Chang Guyu and the others. Although the World Society was not well known, it was different and had a strong background. "Young Hall Master, are we leaving now?" In the mountain range in the distance, hundreds of figures flew away. Lin Weiqi looked at Du Xiaofu with some confusion in her eyes. She flitted across the sky, her red robes fluttering like fire. "Of course, we don't need to interfere with the rest." Du Xiaofu nodded with a smile. Seeing Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, and Little Tiger, the last worry in his heart disappeared. He was in a good mood. Jiangchen glanced at Du Xiaofu and said, "Are you all done? It's time to go get the Yin Spirit Crystals." "Of course, let's go get the Yin Spirit Crystals first." Du Xiaofu was in a good mood. Yi Piaoling and Chang Guyu were fine. With Du Xiaoqing and the people of the ancient heaven sect, he didn't have to worry about anything. Especially with Du Xiaoyao around, there wouldn't be any major problems. That guy should have recognized me. Du Xiaofu muttered to himself. He might be able to fool everyone, but he probably wouldn't be able to fool Du Xiaoyao. Du Xiaofu could tell from the connection between their bloodlines that Du Xiaoyao's strength had reached a terrifying level after all these years. That guy called Dongli Chihuang had a strange aura. Do you know him? Jiangchen asked Du Xiaofu. He's the holy son of the great Luan sect, Du Xiaofu said to Jiangchen. It's said that he cultivates a secret reincarnation art. One of the great Luan sect's experts reincarnate to cultivate. He's well hidden. Next time you meet him, be careful. Jiangchen glanced at Du Xiaofu, then flew into the air. We need to get the Yin spirit crystals as soon as possible. However, they're in the hands of that vine monster. It's very strong. If I were at my peak, it would have been afraid of me. But in my current state, I'm afraid I can't help you. Whether or not you get the Yin spirit crystals will depend on yourself. Treasure. There's definitely a treasure. Maybe there's even an ancient expert's inheritance. That's for sure. The aura there is unusual. There are traces of natural treasures. In a dense forest covered in darkness, strange, towering trees stood tall. Towering trees towered into the clouds. They were incomparably large. Occasionally, gusts of wind would whistle past them, and their branches would sway in the wind like sinister demons. Inside the forest, many people cautiously ventured deeper, whispering to each other. Apparently, some kind of treasure had been discovered here, attracting quite a few people. Within the strange forest, hundreds of young men and women stood quietly atop a mountain. They were Du Xiaofu, Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, and the other 7-star hall disciples. That vine monster is luring people to their deaths again. Jiangchen gazed at the many people entering the forest. His chiseled, cold face and deep, dark eyes were completely devoid of emotion. How strong is that vine monster? Du Xiaofu asked Jiangchen. He seemed to recall Jiangchen mentioning that there were quite a few terrifying existences here. That vine monster is a demon spirit. According to your calculations, it should be at the demonic Emperor Paramitha level, said Jiangchen coolly. Demonic Emperor Paramitha? Du Xiaofu's gaze trembled. As his cultivation increased, he learned more and more about the world. In this world, there were humans and beasts. Everything in the world had spirituality. Vine monsters, tree monsters, and the like were called demon spirits. It was said that when gathered, demon spirits took form. When scattered, they became nothing. Essence Qi relied on objects. Qi was chaotic in the center, and objects changed outside. Their form, spirit, Qi, and essence were used on the outside and on the inside. There's really such a powerful demon spirit here. Lin Weiqi was astonished. The demonic Emperor Paramitha was definitely a terrifying existence. How much do you know about demon spirits? Du Xiaofu asked Lin Weiqi. Most likely, she knew quite a bit about demon spirits. Demonic spirits are originally from the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. They are proficient in the 5 aspects of appearance, speech, sight, hearing, and thought. Although the rise and fall of information can change the myriad of things, they can be discussed in terms of the signs of good fortune, misfortune, disaster, and fortune. Lin Weiqi said to Du Xiaofu, demon spirits are undefined. They may be spirits, ghosts, in flames, divine light, strange plants, or strange trees. I wonder if Du Xiaoyao counts as a demon spirit, muttered Du Xiaofu to himself. Don't delay. That vine monster is probably preparing to start a massacre. If we wait until it's full of killing intent and blood, it'll be even harder to deal with. Jiangchen's thick eyebrows rose rebelliously as he glanced at Du Xiaofu. Then, he appeared in front of them. Follow him. Everyone, be careful. Du Xiaofu watched Jiangchen's retreating figure, then turned to Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Stone, and the others. Figures shuttled through the strange, dense forest. In front of a towering tree, a strange light shot through the air like an arrow, piercing through the air. In an instant, it reached a beautiful woman. Hiss! The woman raised her head, her beautiful eyes rippling with light. With a flick of her wrist, a stream of light shot out from her hand, slicing the light in two. It was a strange flower vine. It looked ordinary, but it could suddenly become a killing tool. Chapter 902. Many of them did not notice that their cultivation was not weak, so they were likely to be killed. Everyone, be careful. This place is strange. The woman seemed to be untainted by the mortal world as she warned the 20 or so young men and women behind her. The 20 or so extraordinary young men and women stood behind the alluring woman. Each of them was very powerful, and they stood there quietly, emitting an unusual aura. If Du Xiaofu was here, he would definitely be able to recognize these extraordinary young men and women. They were none other than Gu Xinyan, General, Ghost Child, Wu Kei, Guo Xiaofeng, Li Yuxiao, and the others from Tianwu Academy. There seems to be quite a number of people here looking for treasures. Could there really be treasures here? Li Yuxiao's figure was tall and straight as he looked around. His light red hair draped over his shoulders, and his dark red eyes rippled. There was an indescribable majesty and evil aura around him. Gu Xinyan looked at the sea of people in the sky. Her beautiful eyes glowed as she said softly, "There should be treasures here. However, places with treasures are bound to be dangerous. There are also many experts here, so we have to be very careful. Let's find the treasures first." General retracted his gaze as his aura rippled. His aura seemed to dominate the sky, suppressing the mountains and rivers. Someone's here. Ghost Child suddenly raised his head. His black robe fluttered slightly, and his facial features were clear as if they were carved. His voice was gentle, but there was a hint of fierceness in it. He said softly, "There are quite a number of people here." Swoosh, swoosh. As Ghost Child's voice faded, hundreds of people appeared in their sight. They were all young men and women, and they all had a faint cold and evil aura around them. The Een Spirit Crystal should be in front. As long as we can get it, we will have done a great service. This time, the sect leader did not send us here hoping that we can get the last opportunity in this sealed ancient land. He only hopes that we can get the Een Spirit Crystal. The Een Spirit Crystal is here. 60 years ago, a strong cultivator of the sect accidentally found it when he was young. However, at that time, a terrifying evil spirit just happened to awaken and everyone was killed. The strong cultivator of the sect was lucky enough to escape. We must be careful. As long as we don't wake up that evil spirit, we will be fine. This time, eldest senior brother has obtained great benefits from this place. He has directly broken through to the initial stage of the martial emperor stage. If that evil spirit is still around, he should be able to kill it directly. Everyone who obtains the Een Spirit Crystal will be rewarded greatly. Eldest senior brother, someone is watching us from the front. Over 100 young men and women were discussing in low voices as they walked over carefully. They did not even dare to speak loudly. Suddenly, they noticed Gu Xinyan, the general, Wu Kei, and the others. They immediately stopped and began to size each other up. Among this group of people, there was a young man in black and gray robes who looked to be about 25 or 26 years old. His aura was quite cold, and there were many Martial King realm auras behind him. The rest were all Martial Marquis realm auras. A lineup of over 100 people was not too strong, but it was definitely not too weak either. Seeing that there were only over 20 of them, this group of people let down their guard a little. Among them, there were a few beautiful women who attracted the evil gazes of many of the men in the lineup. They are not weak. It seems that there is an initial stage martial emperor. If we fight, we will not be able to gain any advantages. Be careful. Gu Xinyan said softly to the people around her. There was a hint of fear in her beautiful eyes. Let's go first. Let's find the treasure first. The general nodded at Gu Xinyan. There was no need for that. In this sealed, ancient land that was filled with evil spirits, there was indeed no need to casually fight with others. The crowd then turned around and began to retreat. It was obvious that they did not intend to pay attention to the group behind them. It was fine as long as they did not invade each other's territory. Seeing the attitude of the 20 young men and women as they left, the hundreds of people behind them knew that the other party was more afraid of them. Their eyes were filled with smiles. The leading young man in dark gray robes looked at the backs of the beautiful women. There was a hint of uncontrollable lust in his eyes. He said, "Everyone, This place is strange and dangerous. May I ask where you are from? Do you want to travel together? When the time comes, we will split the treasure equally. I am Insi Jun, the sect master of the Dark Nether sect, Shui Yao's first disciple. Sizzle. As soon as Insi Jun finished speaking, the 20-plus figures in front of him suddenly stopped, and then they turned around in unison. Are you from the Dark Nether sect? Wu Kei turned around and asked Insi Jun. She was wearing a bright red robe. Her big eyes were filled with a seductive charm. She looked at Insi Jun and asked, Of course, I'm Insi Jun, the first disciple of the Dark Nether sect. May I know where you are from? When Insi Jun saw the seductive women, he tidied his clothes. Although the Dark Nether sect was not as powerful as the 9 great forces, it was still powerful enough to be looked up to by some small forces. These 20 people must have come from a small force. They must be in awe of the Dark Nether sect. If that was the case, he was certain that he would be able to win the hearts of those beautiful women. Dark Nether sect? As soon as Yinsijin said those words, everyone from Tianwu Academy shuddered. Their auras gushed out from their bodies, and their calm gazes turned blood red. The destruction of Tianwu Academy was a blood feud. The scene from back then was still vivid in their minds, and they could not forget it. Back then, they had barely managed to escape with their lives after the Academy's experts sacrificed their lives. All of them swore that they would rebuild Tianwu Academy one day and take revenge for this blood feud. Now that the Dark Nether sect's disciples were right in front of them, how could they endure it? What are you trying to do? When Insi Jun sensed the sudden surge of sharp auras from the other party, he immediately sensed that something was amiss. We must take revenge for this blood feud. Liu Xiao walked out, and a devilish aura surged out of his dark red eyes. In an instant, his aura soared into the sky as though a demon god had awakened. We must take revenge for this blood feud. The general, Gu Xinyan, Guo Xiaofeng, Ghost Child, Wu Kei, Black Eagle, Tang Wu, Yi Feiyu, Guo Qing, Zhang Lu, Wu Qingfeng, Zhang Wei, Sun Ji, and the others released their auras as their eyes turned red. Attack! Waves of auras surged out as the 20 Tianwu Academy students moved at the same time. They turned into streaks of light and charged toward the Dark Nether sect's disciples with majestic auras. How dare you attack my Dark Nether sect when you're not even a martial monarch? You're courting death. Insi Jun shouted in a deep voice. His expression changed as killing intent filled his eyes. A cold aura swept out and charged toward Liu Xiao, the general, and the others who were in the lead. A huge battle suddenly broke out. Boom! The energy collided and turned into a vortex. Dazzling runes filled the sky, and it looked extremely terrifying. Kill! Ghost Child, Guo Xiaofeng, Wu Kei, Black Eagle, Tang Wu, and the others attacked fiercely. They charged into the crowd and collided with the Dark Nether sect's disciples. Boom! Boom! A chaotic battle broke out. The shocking sound of energy colliding resounded in the strange forest, attracting the attention of many people. The people from Tianwu Academy were extraordinary. However, compared to the hundreds of people from the Dark Nether sect, there was no doubt that they had the advantage in numbers. There were no weaklings among them, and they definitely had the upper hand. Moreover, there was a martial monarch in the Dark Nether sect who had just entered the martial monarch stage. Compared to the general, Gu Xinyan, and the others, this level of cultivation was much more tyrannical. Ever since Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, and the others left the spirit realm, they had obtained some fortuitous encounters. With the cultivation resources that Du Xiaofu had given them before they parted ways and the fortuitous encounters they had obtained in the sealed ancient land, they had only reached the peak of the martial king realm. The general's improvement was the greatest, and he had obtained the greatest fortuitous encounter in the sealed ancient land. However, he had just broken through to the peak of the martial monarch realm. He was not afraid of ordinary peak martial kings, but he was still lacking when facing a martial monarch. For ordinary people, even if they were talented, it would take them more than 10 years to break through one level of the martial king realm. It was already terrifying that they could break through 2 levels in such a short time. However, the Tianwu Academy's disciples were not enough to deal with the Dark Nether sect's disciples. This was especially true when facing a martial monarch. The general and Ghost Child were still injured when they joined forces. Spurred, many of the Tianwu Academy's disciples were forced to retreat. Blood dripped from their mouths as they were attacked by the dark nether sect's disciples. However, none of them retreated. They fought with all their might. The Academy's blood feud was as deep as the ocean. They would not back down when they encountered this. Bang! Bang! The general and Ghost Child tried their best, but they were still suppressed. Blood flowed from their mouths. Their eyes were bloodshot, and their killing intent was sharp. Swoosh! Swoosh! Hundreds of figures rushed out from the forest. In just a few flashes, they appeared outside the chaotic battle. A young man wearing a purple soft armor and a purple mask walked out. He was holding a shining badge in his hand. He looked at the battlefield in front of him, and his eyes suddenly became fierce. Hiss! Hiss! Little Star, who was on Du Xiaofu's shoulder, raised its head slightly. Its golden eyes looked around as it looked at the chaotic battle. Bang! 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 A series of deep sonic booms sounded. Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Stone, and the others looked at each other with a puzzled expression. They did not know why the young hall master would suddenly appear here without saying a word. Bang! Bang! Roar! The chaotic battle was intense. Many people had already activated their meridian souls. Rumble! Terrifying energy swept out. The ground in the forest cracked, and strange towering trees exploded. You overestimate yourself. Kill. Insijuan snorted coldly and dove down from the sky amidst the black mist. His aura was monstrous and oppressive as he lashed out with his claw, intending to tear the general and Ghost Child apart. The general and Ghost Child had just stopped retreating. Before they could stabilize their bodies, the terrifying claw imprint had already swept over, causing a grave expression to appear in their eyes. Chapter 903. Scram. At this moment, an indifferent and sharp voice was heard. A purple figure appeared in front of General and Ghost Child like a ghost. A powerful and domineering aura erupted. The purple figure didn't seem to move, but Insi Jun's figure was forced back. The sudden appearance of the figure caused Gehenna Jun's expression to change drastically as he retreated. General and Ghost Child were even more surprised. They had thought that they would have to put their lives on the line, but they did not expect that someone would appear at this time to lend them a helping hand. When they saw the purple figure who wore purple soft armor and a purple mask, the eyes of the general and Ghost Child trembled. They could not help but cry out, "Weapon Emperor, Xiaofeng!" How could the general and Ghost Child forget the figure in front of them? That was the weapon sovereign, Xiaofeng. They had always suspected that the weapon sovereign, Xiaofeng, might be someone, but they didn't dare to be sure. Whoosh whoosh! Whooshing sounds resounded in all directions. Several hundred figures immediately landed in the surroundings, surrounding the battlefield in a formation that surrounded the intense battle. Waves of powerful auras spread out, causing the expressions of the Tianwu Academy students and Dark Nether Sect's disciples who were fighting to the death to turn pale. Their movement slowed down. "All of you, stop!" After Du Xiaofu forced Insijuan back, he looked around and shouted. His voice was like a thunderclap that shook the souls of everyone present. The people who were fighting fiercely retreated one after another. The Dark Nether Sect's disciples exchanged glances with each other before they retreated behind Insijun. They looked at the several hundred people around them and the mysterious masked man, feeling puzzled and shocked. When Tianwu Academy's Gu Xinyan, Gua Xiaofeng, Wu Kei, Tang Wu, Li Yuxiao, and the others saw the purple-armored cultivator, their faces lit up with joy as they approached him. Du Xiaofu's gaze swept past the general, Gu Xinyan, Li Yuxiao, Wu Kei, and the others. He then saw Wu Qingfeng, Zhang Wei, Sun Ji, Yi Feiyu, Gua Qing, Zhang Lu, and the others. He was secretly happy and asked, "Are you guys okay?" "Brother Xiaofeng, we're fine. It's just that a few of us were heavily injured," Wu Kei said as he stared at the person under the mask. He wanted to confirm if the weapon sovereign, Xiaofeng, was him. "Sir, you must be the weapon sovereign, Xiaofeng. I've heard about you. We're the Dark Nether Sect's disciples. Insijun, Xiaofeng, the weapon sovereign, Xiaofeng." Xiaofeng, the divine thunder sect's disciple. Xiaofeng, the weapon sovereign, was in the divine thunder divine. The Dark Nether sect was still incomparable to the Seven Stars Hall. Under such circumstances, it was better for them to establish a good relationship with the Seven Stars Hall. Dark Nether sect, Dark Nether sect, Du Xiaofu and Devil Realm sect, sects Chaz Hand of Fengs Tu's Nine Dongs to NNNA to Forest to Yi. In, he, to kill. The to him to the two to kill. Kill, SS to two, TT to his two, T's 8, Dark Nether sect. Consider this as interest. Just as Een Si Jun's expression changed, a bone-chilling voice filled with killing intent rang in his ears. Then, a purple figure appeared in front of him like a ghost. Een Si Jun was unable to react to the aura and speed of the purple figure. His eyes narrowed as a chill crawled up his soul. Fear filled his eyes. Finally, he saw a bolt of lightning land on his glabella. Bang! A bolt of lightning energy landed on Een Si Jun's forehead and pierced through it. Een Si Jun's body began to crack, and in the end, he exploded under the force of the lightning energy, turning into a bloody mist that filled the sky and dissipated. Arcs of lightning filled the air. A martial emperor who had just broken through to the martial emperor realm was easily killed like an ant. Kill. Leave no one alive. Du Xiaofu waved his hand, and a chill spread out from his body. His eyes under the mask were filled with killing intent. Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Shi Tu, Tao Yu, Sun Tian, Wu Mashang, Yu Bai, and the others trembled in fear. They had never seen the young lord have such a murderous intent. Even Xiao Hui, who had killed the Divine Light Court, did not have such a murderous intent. Kill. As soon as Du Xiaofu waved his hand, Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Shi Tu, Sun Tian, and the others charged out and charged toward the Dark Nether sect's disciples who were still in a daze. Bang! 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 Ah! Help! Run! Run for your lives! The sound of explosions reverberated in the air as the Dark Nether sect's disciples shrieked in agony. How could these Dark Nether sect's disciples be a match for the Seven Star Hall's disciples? Whether it was in terms of numbers or cultivation base, they would be slaughtered. In just 2 to 3 minutes, hundreds of Dark Nether sect's disciples had turned into bloody mist. With Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Shi Tu, Sun Tian, and the others present, none of the Dark Nether sect's disciples could escape. The general, Gu Xinyan, Li Yuxiao, Wu Kei, Gua Xiaofeng, and the others looked at each other when they saw this. They were shocked by the strength of Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Shi Tu, and the others. At the same time, they were also shocked by the mysterious young man's killing intent. There were many onlookers in the surroundings. They could not help but take a few steps back. They did not want to be implicated when the Seven Star Hall's disciples started a massacre. Perhaps only the people from the 9 great forces could compare to the Seven Star Hall's disciples. He's here. That guy is here. At this moment, Zombie Jiang Chen glanced around the forest and said nonchalantly, "Whoosh, whoosh." At this moment, the dense aura in the forest began to fluctuate. A murderous aura began to spread out and permeated the dark forest. The murderous aura caused people's hearts to tremble. They began to look around cautiously. Some people began to retreat. The atmosphere was so tense that those with weaker strength could not bear it. Ah! All of a sudden, a blood-curdling scream rang out. Outside the crowd, someone's body was pierced by the black vines. The onlookers were unable to resist the vines at all. Their blood was sucked dry, and they turned into dried corpses. Their vitality was being devoured, and it seemed like their souls were being devoured as well. Ah, save me! Save me! All of a sudden, countless blood-curdling screams rang out. Dense black vines appeared in the surroundings and pierced through the onlookers' bodies. They devoured their blood, vitality, and souls. At the same time, some people tried to make a move. However, no one was able to do anything to the densely packed vines. The vines moved like lightning, and wherever they passed, there would be a massacre. Screams of agony rang out endlessly. "Everyone, be careful," Du Xiaofu shouted. He released his consciousness to the surroundings. allowing the 7-Star Hall's disciples and Tianwu Academy students to get closer. Blood-black, baleful aura spread out in the air, densely filling the air and covering the dense forest. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The black vines continued their massacre, and in an instant, countless corpses were turned into dried corpses. Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, the general, Stone, Gu Xinyan, and the others were astonished. The black vines were too bizarre and powerful. In just a short period of time, the thousands of people in the surroundings were killed by the black vines. Not a single drop of blood flowed out. Everything was devoured by the black vines, and the surroundings turned into a dead zone. Looking at the thousands of people being killed, Du Xiaofu didn't make a move. The vines were too powerful, and he only had to protect those from the 7-Star Hall and Tianwu Academy. As for those who had nothing to do with him, Du Xiaofu didn't feel that he had any obligation to help them. When the Tianwu Academy students were in danger, no one dared to help them. The strong preyed on the weak, and this was an unchanging rule for cultivators. Chi Lala, countless blood-black vines surrounded Du Xiaofu and the others at the back like spirited serpents with their heads held high. It was as though the forest had come to life. Black murderous aura swept across the area, causing one's soul to tremble. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Finally, the vines started to attack from all directions, pouncing toward the 7-Star Hall and Tianwu Academy students. Kill. Lin Weiqi, Dongli Diao, Shi Tu, Sun Wu, Wu Mashang, Yu Bai, and the other strongest cultivators of the various palaces immediately took action. Waves of mighty qi surged and swept out in a terrifying manner, blocking the eerie and terrifying blood-black tree vines. Lala, Lin Weiqi's beautiful figure was surrounded by raging flames, blocking the black vines. After all, flames were the nemesis of evil spirits. However, the vines were extremely bizarre. It seemed as though they weren't afraid of flames. A few even more terrifying vines swept out, wrapping around Lin Weiqi. Dongli Diao, Sun Tian, Stone, and the others made their moves with all their might. Terrifying runes soared into the sky, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. Rumble. Terrifying auras burst forth one after another, but Dongli Diao, Stone, and the others were still unable to fend off the vines. Some of the vines swept out, completely unafraid of ordinary attacks. Ku. Dongli Condor activated the enormous body of the cloud-piercing Phoenix Blood Condor. Runes flashed and the enormous body of the cloud-piercing Phoenix Blood Condor hovered in midair. However, it was immediately entangled by more than a dozen tree vines. There will be a small explosion today. It will be released consecutively around 7 to 8 in the evening. Brothers, don't wait for the update during the day. Chapter 904. Swoosh swoosh. Black fog swirled around the blood-black vines. The arm-sized vines moved like black lightning, stirring up the energy of heaven and earth. Soon after, the strange blood-black vines wrapped around Lin Weiqi, Stone, Sun Tian, Yu Bai, Wu Mashang, and the others tightly. No matter how hard Lin Weiqi and the others struggled, they couldn't break free. Everyone's profound energy surged. Lin Weiqi and the others activated their martial veins, but they couldn't break free. However, it would not be easy for the strange blood-black vines to devour their life force and blood. Du Xiaofu's gaze was grave beneath his mask. He formed seals with his hands and lightning crackled in his eyes. Suddenly, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Dark clouds gathered. Crackle. In an instant, strange lightning talisman inscriptions flashed across Du Xiaofu's body. Silver snakes wreaked havoc around him, making him look like a god of lightning. A terrifying pressure descended upon the area, causing everyone's souls to tremble. Rumble. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The sky froze, and countless bolts of lightning emanated a destructive aura. Terrifying lightning descended from the sky, destroying everything in its path. Large swathes of the forest's towering trees were destroyed. Subsequently, the densely packed and frightening destructive thunderbolts seemed to have grown eyes as they instantly landed on the strange black blood tree vines. Bang bang. As the lightning fell, The strange black vines seemed to have been electrocuted. The tiny vines were instantly destroyed, while the larger ones were knocked back. Some of their runes were destroyed, and they retreated as if they'd been electrocuted. Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, Stone, Sun Wu, and the others were instantly freed. They hurriedly retreated to Du Xiaofu's side, fear in their eyes. Blood fiend vines, come out. Stop hiding. Jiangxin stared ahead, his calm voice echoing in all directions. Jiangxin, you've been working with humans? The strange, sharp voice carried with it a strange sound wave that seemed to bore into one's mind. Whoosh! Blood fiend runes flickered all around the forest. Finally, it seemed as if all the plants and towering trees had come to life. Rocks flew from the ground, and wild winds howled. Everything began to change. Finally, before everyone's eyes, large swathes of the forest's towering trees and strange plants disappeared, transforming into strange, blood-black vines. A blood-black tree vine that was as large as a small village and as tall as a mountain appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The black tree vines that were as large as a city had a strange lower body that was rooted in the forest, while the upper body was that of a giant. Its hair was made of strange blood-black tree vines that were twisting and writhing like blood-black pythons. Its eyes were blood-red, and its entire body was filled with a murderous aura. The enormous vine's gaze swept over Du Xiaofu and the others, then settled on Jiangxin. A strange, piercing voice rang out like thunder, then transformed into ripples that spread out. Your Excellency Jiangxin, you don't want these humans? Are you giving them to me as a gift? Jiangxin gazed at the enormous vine, then raised his head slightly. His gaze was cold and domineering. I need the Een spirit crystals for a purpose. Hand them over. Haha, Een spirit crystals? Your Excellency Jiangxin, what do you need them for? Do you want them from these humans? The vine giant laughed heartily, then looked at Jiangxin. That doesn't seem like your usual style. If you want Een spirit crystals, I'm afraid that's not enough for you to come personally, is it? Do you want me to make a move? Jiangxin stared directly at the vine giant. If he were at his peak, he would have attacked long ago. But now that his corpse core is gone, he's no longer strong enough to deal with the blood fiend vines. From the looks of it, the news can't be wrong. Rumor has it that Jiangxin has joined forces with the humans, and his cultivation seems to have been affected. The blood vine sneered at Jiangxin. His eyes were ferocious, and his murderous aura surged to the heavens. If you were still at your peak, you would have attacked me long ago. The fact that you still haven't attacked proves that your strength has indeed declined significantly. You can try. Jiangxin's jet-black eyes flickered slightly, but when he looked at the blood fiend vines, his gaze was cold. If you want to try, then I'll try. Your disciples and grand-disciples have all been killed. Do you still want to lie to me? You're not the same as before. The blood fiend vine sneered. As it spoke, a blood-black vine stretched out from the sky, piercing through space. Its tail glinted with a sharp, cold light. As the vine shot out, a murderous aura surged in all directions. Its terrifying aura rippled like a tidal wave. Jiangxin's gaze flickered. He prepared to attack. Whoosh! However, at that moment, a purple figure shot out. Du Xiaofu was the first to act. Profound energy surged from the soles of his feet as he blocked the vine. Just as Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in front of Jiangxin, the blood fiend vines tore through space like a sharp arrow, causing faint black cracks to appear in the surrounding space. Carefree rippling steps. Du Xiaofu's figure quickly dodged. His movements were unpredictable, like that of a god. The blood fiend vines let out a cry of surprise, as if its attack had missed. Its strange body twisted slightly, and the surrounding blood-black vines seemed to come alive, covering the sky and covering the earth as they swept out. These strange blood-black vines seemed to be able to tear through space. In an instant, they appeared around Du Xiaofu. Swish, swish, a dense mass of blood-black vines appeared in the sky, covering the sky with terrifying speed. Accompanied by a monstrous, murderous aura, they tightly wrapped around Du Xiaofu. Not good. Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, and the others suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air. They'd personally experienced the vines and knew that they couldn't break free from them. Oh, just as the densely packed blood-black tree vines wrapped around Du Xiaofu, a dragon's roar was emitted from within. The sound wave caused Dongli Diao to almost tremble and crawl. Whoosh whoosh, a monstrous energy rippled through the air. Within the dense mass of strange vines, a golden flame swept out. The terrifying heat seemed capable of incinerating everything. It seemed capable of destroying everything. Large patches of strange plants in the vicinity of the forest immediately withered. Bang bang! In just a moment, the dense cage of vines began to crack. Then, it exploded. The broken vines and runes disappeared in midair. Elwo! The dragon's roar resounded through the space. Then, Little Star's true body, which was dozens of feet long, hovered high in the sky. His wings, which had expanded to hundreds of feet, were no longer as thin as a cicada's wings. Instead, they were like the feathers of a phoenix, spreading red-purple flames. Although there was starlight flowing on the surface of his body and the aura of the golden-winged rock, there was more of a terrifying supreme aura. General, Gu Xinyan, and the others raised their heads. Under the terrifying pressure, the new meridian soul that Ghost Child had merged with the Nine Serenities Ghost Dragon was also trembling. Whoosh whoosh, little Xingxing revealed his true form. 5 claws could be faintly seen rising from his abdomen, giving birth to clouds of runes. Golden light overflowed from his eyes as he flapped his wings, forming waves of blazing fire tornadoes that immediately wrapped around the huge blood-vine fiend. A terrifying, strange, and complicated pressure descended upon the world from his body. That blazing aura caused the blood fiend vines to be shocked. Immediately, he waved his vine arms. The dense vines in the surroundings fluctuated, forming an indestructible wall of vines in midair, resisting the blazing flames on Little Star's body. The blazing flames seemed to be able to suppress it at this moment. However, Little Star's blazing flames were unable to do anything to the blood fiend vines for the time being. It could only be considered a stalemate. Du Xiaofu's hand seals condensed. His gaze under the mask was slightly serious. Mysterious runes flashed from his body, condensing into a stalk of grass. That was the Nether Seeker grass. Its spiritual leaves were slender, as if they were real. Mysterious runes flashed. As the Nether Seeker grass flew out, the entire sky was filled with pressure. However, that aura spread, causing the depths of one's soul to feel relaxed and happy. That aura could purify the spirit platform and suppress all evil. Go. The mysterious runes turned into a beam of light. It could actually penetrate the blood fiend vine's wall of vines and suppress all evil spirits. Bang bang bang. The blood fiend vine's wall exploded. The huge body of vines started to sway, as if it was continuously injured. Then, it continued to explode, and in the end, it completely collapsed. The ominous aura swept out, causing the earth to shake. Everyone retreated with astonishment in their eyes. After a short while, the huge tree vines were completely shattered into pieces and disappeared. Something doesn't seem right. Du Xiaofu floated in midair and exchanged glances with Little Star. Both of them revealed a doubtful and vigilant expression. Although the Nether Seeker grass was the nemesis of all evil spirits, Du Xiaofu didn't believe that he could defeat the blood fiend vines so easily. The blood fiend vines of the Demon Emperor Nirvana realm was extremely powerful. It was definitely not easy to deal with. Ha 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 ha. At this moment, the blood fiend vine's strange and sharp laughter came from an unknown place in the surrounding air. As the loud laughter came out, the messy and strange forest suddenly started to shake violently again. Then, as if the earth was shaking, the monstrous, ominous aura swept out from the surroundings like a wave.